expulsion after he moved to court to challenge the ouster, which was pegged on grounds of disciplinary violations. Kenya's COVID-19 positivity rate was at 8% yesterday, with 356 new infections tested from 4,424 samples. The new infections bring the total number of confirmed cases to 163,976. 21 deaths were also reported, bringing the total number of fatalities to 2,928. The High Court has overturned the nomination of Dorothy Jamatore as LSK representative to the selection panel of IEBC. Justice George Odunga ordered National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi to instead receive the nomination of Maurice Kimoli. The Parliamentary Service Commission is listed as the first respondent, while Jamatore is the second interested party. And the National Olympic Committee has received 45 million shillings sponsorship for Team Kenya ahead of the Tokyo 2020 Games from the Kenya Breweries Limited. KBL Managing Director John Musunga delivered the sponsorship check to NOC K President Paul Tergat, who was flanked by Team Kenya Chef de Michaud for Tokyo Games Waithaka Kioni. That's the news hour. I'm Dennis Aseto.
All right, bright and early this morning, there was traffic as early as 4 a.m. And this is on Mombasa Road. This is at that stretch just at General Motors. It looks like it's going to be a crazy Wednesday. There's traffic all the way from the SGR, and that's ending right at General Motors, but it's slowing things down considerably. And so that means traffic is tailbacked all the way to the Weybridge on Mombasa Road. All right, we're also seeing traffic starting on Thika Road as well. We'll take a look at things as they open up. A lot of the roads are waterlogged, guys, because of construction that's taking place. And we're looking at from Mombasa Road all the way through to Westlands on the Uhuru Highway. So please be careful as you are on the roads this morning. We'll give you an update in a short while. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
Good morning to you. How are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday, the 12th day of May 2021. Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C.T. Muga with you this morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Are you well?
Yes.
Good. C.T.?
Good morning, Eric.
Oh, you're there.
Good morning, Ndu.
Good morning, CT.
How are you today?
Wait. Yeah, I hadn't noticed your positioning, your geolocation. Now, there we go. Start again. Good morning, City.
Should I send you a pin?
Yes. Send a pin.
Pin.
How you doing?
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I actually like rain. I like the weather. What I don't like is what accompanies it sometimes. And by accompanying it, I mean having a contractor who doesn't seem to understand that when people travel on a road that is uneven in this weather, the crevices and the potholes get bigger and bigger and bigger every single day. And then they're filled with water. So sooner rather than later, you're going to find cars submerging into those holes because they'll stop being potholes. Yes.
You know, we have talked about this before, okay? And it's happening. It's an obvious thing. You are working, you are on site, you have therefore created a diversion, and you can see the effect of your poorly done diversion.
All that traffic that was using 3 lanes is now using one lane. So what do you think is going to happen?
I just don't get it.
Then the question I want to ask myself this morning is, if this person was constructing a road in the country they came from, which is China, would they do exactly the same thing?
Of course not.
Would they hold these very low standards in their own country?
They wouldn't.
So
They wouldn't. And so the person who's contracted them, that's the Kenya National Highways Authority, what are they doing? So there's traffic today as early as 4 a.m.
Yes.
on Mombasa Road.
Yeah. How do you explain that?
It cannot be because, there was a truck that has blocked the road.
No,
It's
no, no.
not those.
No. Road bad, one lane. So everyone is moving at a snail's pace. In fact, there are times you stop and you ask, has something happened? No. Someone's just navigating the horrible, terrible terrain.
And then you see their car sinking.
Yes, exactly. Which means you can see the future of your car
Yes.
also sinking.
Right,
Same
and you can't
way.
turn back.
Yeah.
Turn back where? It's one lane.
So what's happening on Mombasa Road anyway?
Nothing is happening on
So you're
Mombasa
saying
Road.
the section between all
So-
the way from Lolongo, SGR.
Right, so there's traffic between the SGR right now and General Motors. It's an absolute mess, and it's being caused by this section right here at General Motors because it's now one lane. And even on that one lane, they've started to chip away. So it's extremely narrow, and then it's waterlogged at the same time. So from Imara Daima towards General Motors, it's an ocean. So people are going slowly, and then they're all
you
joining
go up
this
the bridge.
narrow lane.
So up the bridge, and then out after the bridge, you find out the narrow lane.
Yep.
Well, since
Sorry, I mean, a 15-minute journey is taking an hour and a half.
now,
And that is 4 a.m.
That's
Yes.
4 a.m. It was
You
4 a.m.
wait.
move forward to 10, 11 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
All right? Nyayo Stadium. There's something is happening there. You will be on that road, if you are lucky, 1 hour, 45 minutes. By the
Section between where and where?
if let's say you have now left Standard Media headquarters, all right, where you branch off towards the bypass, okay, if you continue along that road, from that point onwards, you will take 1 hour 45 minutes, if you're lucky, if not 2 hours, to get to Nyayo Stadium.
So let's say from Next Gen Mall
Yes,
to Nyayo Stadium,
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yes, daily.
Next Gen Mall to Nyayo Stadium.
It took me an hour and a half yesterday.
And the reason is not
Just to
yes,
Nyayo.
yes. The problem is that at Nyayo Stadium there seems to be a problem there. Cars are simply not moving to go towards town. Cars coming from Lusaka Road and what have you, those ones you actually see them moving. And then
So police are controlling that traffic.
no, I see them walking.
No, there's about seven. There's about 7 traffic police just hanging about, having a good time at the roundabout.
You just see them. In all honesty, that's what you see.
There's nothing happening.
But also,
and then
I-
also that section between Nyayo Stadium and Bunyala closed.
Yes,
both
and,
sides.
And you can't blame the police because if traffic isn't moving on that roundabout of Bunyala Road, what on earth are they supposed
what
to
will
do?
you do?
Oh no! Between
Aerodrome
Nyayo Stadium,
Road.
between Nyayo Stadium now, from what I was yesterday, between Nyayo Stadium now and the Bunyala Road roundabout towards town is open.
That's open.
Yes.
Okay.
This other side though, inbound is not.
Okay. But was there traffic at that roundabout between Nyayo and Bunyala?
Yes, and then
Not moving as well.
It's not moving, and then to
Which
compound
means
issues,
that
it's an
after
ocean.
Bunyala,
Yes.
Makaburini is also not moving.
Yes. It's
not
Up the
moving.
railways bridge.
And then there's water everywhere. It's a mess. And then today, mind you, it has rained. It rained from 5 p.m. till 5 a.m. So the water that was already there as of yesterday logged. Today, with this 12 hours of rain, is not going to
It's
be
just
funny at
going
all.
to be madness. Absolute
I
madness.
bet it is. Absolutely lunacy.
Where these, I'm sorry, but I have to say this: where these contractors do work in other countries, in like for example,
their
if you
own
look
country.
at in China, for example, they will not leave the roads like that, even when construction is ongoing. They will still make provision to make the roads passable.
You don't do.
They will. They do it because they are bound by law.
There are minimum standards for building roads, even in this country they exist, by the way. And that is why when they're trying to pave, carpet a road, they actually put...
They do a section
Yes,
and
and
leave
they
another
also
section.
give you a new road on which you
to
can...
use. Yeah.
It's these. I'm not an engineer. I don't even understand those terms. But I know it's a basic requirement.
Yes.
Well, Just because you're building the road doesn't mean that life has stopped.
In fact, you are required to make sure that that's why you come up with diversions.
Precisely.
And that diversion, then you make it motorable.
You know, Eric, there was
Make
a
the
company
traffic
from
move
that
as
same country,
smoothly as
China,
possible.
that made this Mombasa road, okay, a 3-lane road on each side. I remember them working day and night. They did not hamper traffic, I recall.
Yes.
And they were building, they were expanding it.
It was actually the same company, I think.
All right.
So the same company.
So the
in a
question
road
that I
and
need
bridge.
to now ask is that who are the people who are supposed to supervise these fellows from within our own ranks?
It's just absolute madness. Anyway, welcome to the show. We'll have more conversations about this. Today, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot from people on Mombasa Road all the way to Wayakiwe. So we'll give you a moment to vent. We will do that this morning.
Yep.
At 8 o'clock, we'll have a guest in the studio, and this is the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, Farida Karone. No, that whole issue of digitization of land records and the rollout of the Earth is as a platform. And now there's a whole issue again of the Sectional Properties Act. You own a flat. What do you have as proof of ownership? Do you just have a long-term lease, or do you get your own piece of document that is separate from a mother title? Those are conversations we'll be having. She will be here so that she can answer your questions, and therefore we'll be opening up the phone lines for you to call in and ask as many questions of the Cabinet Secretary as possible. In the meantime, COVID. Let's look at it quickly.
All right, let's look very quickly in Kenya. What's going on? 356 new cases as of yesterday. This is from a sample size of 4,424. We are now back up to a positivity rate of 8%. This is from this sample size. Still waiting to hear what, taking an average from the last 21 days, what the positivity rate is for the country, but probably able to give you those details later on. 21 recorded deaths yesterday. This is 8 from the last month, and 13 from collected around the country. All right, so we're looking at now cumulative tests of 1.7 million in the country, 163,976 confirmed cases, and 113 and 57 total recovered cases. 2,928 fatalities, unfortunately. Let's look quickly at vaccinations. We're still under 1 million. 921,546 persons so far have been vaccinated across the country. And this is split amongst teachers, health workers, security officers, and the others category. So perhaps now we fall in the others. Okay? So it's still looking at, the Ministry of Health still tells us that they're waiting on new vaccines to come into the country, and they're making those negotiations right now. So this is what we're looking at. Still low numbers, positivity rate dropping. Things are happening. Schools have opened. Everybody's about their business as normal. Again, looking at hearing what the experts will say, now is the time to do what we can do to live with COVID-19 and do all that we can do to protect ourselves in terms of social distance, washing your hands, wearing your masks, even if you have had the vaccine. And just a point of information, Ministry of Health has said yet again that in terms of some information, they've seen that there's been low uptake of the vaccine, not because of its inavailability, but because of misinformation. And we'll look at that story as we look at the headlines today.
And what have they done about it?
That's the big question. They realize
right.
this as the problem.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, they've picked it out as a problem.
One more thing.
Yes.
Also for clarification, is that the vaccine is being given. The thing about the vaccine is that, number one, it will not cure COVID. All right. What it will do is that it will give you a line of defense against it. And it doesn't guarantee that you will not get COVID. What it does guarantee is that you will not suffer as badly from it had you not had the vaccine. Chances of you maybe being hospitalized, of having severe symptoms, then are lowered with the administration of the vaccine. And I think that was important. Ministry of Health also flagged that. It's important to get that information out there.
Okay, let's take a break. 16 minutes after 6. Live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are. Say hello. We'll be saying hello to you shortly as we take a look at the weather forecast for the day. So it's rained in Nairobi for 12 hours straight?
Yep.
So it's going to be a very dull day. It was dark yesterday at 4 p.m.
It was.
I was actually on the road at 4:30 and I had to have my headlights on. 4:30 p.m. Quite something. 17 after 6. So let's take that break and then we'll look at the newspaper headlines after saying hello to you. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na
nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is raining in Kenya, and let's look at specific countries, or rather cities around the country. 17 degrees, rain showers in Nairobi. 21 will be the high today, lows of 16. Light rain in Nyeri as well. 14 degrees, going to highs of 21. We'll see lows of 15. It's cloudy in Nakuru, giving way to rain later. Highs of 23, lows of 15. 20 will be the high in Eldoret, where it's raining at the moment at 14. It'll come down to lows of 13 today. 25 will be the high in Kisumu. It's raining as well. 18. Guess what? It's mostly cloudy in Kakamega. It will rain in a short while. Highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. It's raining in Mombasa. 26. Highs of 30. Highs of 30 as well as in Malindi. Mostly clear conditions, interestingly enough, at 27 degrees. 19 degrees in Kampala, and it's raining. Highs of 22 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam is mostly clear this morning at 22. Highs of 30 and lows of 23. Clear skies in Johannesburg at 11 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 9. We'll see highs of 32 in Lagos today. It's mostly cloudy at 27. Clear skies in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 33. It'll come back down to lows of 24. We're looking at sunny conditions in Beijing going out east. It'll go to highs of 27, getting quite warm into the Beijing summer. Highs of 17 and lows of 9 in Paris today. It's clear at 8 at the moment. Mostly cloudy conditions in London at 10. Going to highs of 17 today. And New York is still on Tuesday night at 13 degrees. Ringing into Wednesday. Highs of 18 and lows of 8.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
8:20
done
minutes
right.
after 6. So as let's
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
School transport now. The other day we hosted somebody from Maramoja, Ronald Mahondo. He's the CEO of Maramoja Transport. So 3 things that they're aiming to solve. 1, everybody wants a cab nearby where they want to go. Everybody wants to deal with the person that they like, know, or trust. That's why everybody used to have a guy called a My Cab Guy. And everyone wants the luxury of a private driver at the cost of a taxi. Now, if you think about your children going to school, then everybody wants to have somebody who takes their children to school conveniently, affordably, and a trustworthy person. This is what Maramoja is actually doing. School.maramoja.co.ke. Please log on, find out all the information that you can, and see how you can then use the services of Maramoja Transport for your school needs. Let's see who is online this morning.
All right, so quite a number of folks online this morning. Dorcas Kimotha, good morning. Malindi is tuned in as usual. Karibu sana. Hadi tamati, she says. Good morning, Team Spice. And that's Gashari Wambijiwe, well tuned in from Thika Road this morning. Good morning. Joma Tech. Eh? City.
Trombone is strong.
Ate?
Joma Tech.
Tech is strong.
Uh-huh.
People who are.
So when you say tech, strong thing.
Tech is strong.
Okay. So Joma Tech is people who are strong.
Yes.
Okay.
Twice is better.
Right.
Ruben Kigame is Ndani this morning. Good morning to you, Ruben.
Ruben Kigame.
Yes.
Presidential candidate Ruben Kigame. Presidential hopeful Ruben Kigame.
Are you referring to His Excellency?
His Excellency, Presidential Hopeful Plus candidate Ruben Kigame is
Welcome,
tuned
Ruben.
in this morning. Good morning.
We'll host you again soon for you to tell us your idea and what you plan to do should you be elected president, and what do you need actually for as you launch your presidential campaign.
Wanjohi Jemo is tuning this morning with a cup of coffee, listening to our candid convos. Well, good morning to you and Karibu Sana. Kennedy Uma, Kiserian Rada. It's raining here, cats and dogs. I tell you, brother, it's raining everywhere like this. Good. Muhebwa A. Vidal. Good morning, Eric. CT Ndu. Inspired every morning. May you live every day of your lives a brilliant and sparkling day to us all. Amina. Washira Wilfred. Hey, Eric. CT Ndu. And now Dennis Aseto. Yes, Gishogo is sparkling already. Fantastic. Good morning, good people. That's Lucy Wakambo from Nakuru. Waterman Jeffrey is tuned in and representing Hennepin County, Minneapolis. Jose Jays, good morning from Nakuru. Good morning, beautiful people. That's Stone George, tuned in from Dubai. Busana from that part of the world. Diana Mboro, tuned in from Kitengela. It has rained all night. Yes, my dear. We expect to see massive traffic today. It has already begun. Alex Mbogo, tuned in from Nyeri. And Rogers Lai is wishing us a great day from County 001. Karibuni nyote.
Yes, karibuni nyote indeed. CT, today's proverb.
Yes.
Oh, this one needs a clearing of the throat. Wow. Okay.
It's an adjustment of the throat, not clearing.
Sorry, got it.
And it was in tandem with adjusting my seat.
Right.
When the mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her.
Mother goats. Recruiting kids into life of
Breaking an entry.
You're the criminal.
Eh?
See, you're the criminal. When a mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her. Nah. Okay, so let's take a look at the headlines then.
Let's do that, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Kenya's top 100 schools revealed. After we spoke about ranking or not ranking, importance or non-importance of ranking yesterday,
Here we are. The biggest culprit of this is
media, and here we are.
Yes.
So an extensive analysis. It would be interesting to see who did this extensive analysis and says, okay, Kapsabet Boys is the apex of the 2020 KCSE performance chart, and it's been given quite some 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 9 in the Standard today, still looking at these results, and decided to go ahead and rank schools in this way. So, I mean, it's just looking at this and saying that, all right, Kenya's top 100 schools revealed. And this is, interestingly enough, going by exam scores. It's nothing else. It's just going by the scores that students got
per school.
Yeah, per school in this recent exam.
Yep.
So that's what has formed this ranking, and that's what has put schools in a number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 100 spot.
You see, this is where the problem I was referring to yesterday comes in. Okay, this ranking would not be an issue if you took a little more time and actually categorized the schools. For instance, what do I mean? Schools that had, say, 20 candidates. 20 to 30 candidates, put them in one group. Schools that had 50 to 100 candidates, put them in one group. Because from this list, you're assuming that all these schools had the same number of candidates. And there's so much that is unexplained with this categorization. All you have is this school, this is the aggregate. If, for instance, the school that I am chair of the board of management, we had 45 candidates. Okay? So now, if you have 45 candidates...
Right. Then your mean score should be very high.
It should be very high.
Are you here?
No. First 100. I think if you go towards the middle of you might find us somewhere in between there.
Okay.
Or maybe not at all.
So the mean score is actually raised by...
Yes.
If you have few candidates.
Yes.
But also
automatically
on the performance.
Precisely.
Of those
it is one
45.
stream. Then you want to compare this one stream. That's why I'm giving an example. With a school that has 7 streams. Some have 8 streams. So how on earth... To be honest with this comparison, you actually need to take that little pain of categorizing.
But then, isn't that the reason why then you have a mean score? Because the mean score is looking at, yes, among the candidates that you had, the 45, the 100, the 400, how was their performance?
It is true.
Then on average, you can say that this school has performed well compared to this school. A
Yes.
school with 20 candidates, but none of them had an A, majority of them had a C, the mean score is going to be lower than a school with 100 where 80 had A's and 20 had B's.
That's the positive side of the argument. The negative side of the argument is that if you have greater numbers, the likelihood of that mean score being pulled down, if I may use that phrase, is higher because there will be students, because the numbers are great, just who will not perform well. All I am saying is this. Sheep are animals as are goats, okay? But if you're going to compare the two, what are you going to use to compare them, okay? They are both herbivores, as are cows. But you cannot say, for instance, that a camel is a better animal or a better producer of milk than a goat. What are you using to compare it? That's what I'm trying to say. They are all herbivorous. They all produce milk. They are all fit. They're all useful as food products for human beings. The same with this.
What you're doing here is you're comparing different varieties of goat,
Actually, I am.
different breeds of goat. So you say then that this
a sheep
particular
is a goat.
this particular
Oh,
this
you're saying
particular
in schools.
Yes.
this particular goat called let's say cows, because those are the ones I can remember. There is Frisian,
Jersey.
yes. So then you can say that Jersey produces more milk than Frisian. All are cows.
They are.
Where they come from
Yes.
and all are other factors. That's why you'll be able now to start saying, now this one, which is the Ankole, is not as well.
Or Borana.
Or Borana. So Borana, when it comes to beef production,
Abbas.
Borana is.
Eric, now you've gotten the thing. So what are we using? Here we're talking about milk.
Yes,
And yet,
only.
yes, and cows do more than just produce milk. And I think now you've gotten exactly what I am
So
getting.
in order to have
well-informed-
in order to have a well-informed, effective comparison,
Yes.
you must introduce other factors into
Yes.
this pool of factors
Yes.
that you're using
Yes.
to make this comparison.
Yes. Other
It
variables
cannot
have-
just be on one.
No, it can't be. It can't be. You are doing an injustice to
the
something that could be
competition-
useful and even informative.
Then the competition, quote unquote, is unfair if you're only using one factor. You must bring in other
And then
things.
you've lumped in even private schools with this, okay? And you're talking about comparison, and you're talking about a school that has an average of 30 students in a class against a school that has 50, 55, 60 students in a class. There are all these variables that must be considered. You're talking about schools that may even have an assistant teacher in the class.
You're also looking at things that could be used to judge people in the future. And they say, which school did you go to? Yes, but they're judging you on something else that you did in that school apart from passing an exam.
Yeah.
You could have been doing other things. You could have been a brilliant artist. You could have been an excellent sportsman or sportswoman. You could have been something else that brought you into a position of excellence apart from passing an exam. But right now, what we're doing is that we are ranking on just the scores of an exam.
Yeah. When it comes now to ranking for football, okay, at the end of the first term, when it's sports, you can rank and say the best football school in the country is this one.
So
It's okay.
So what we're
it's
saying is that
fine.
top schools.
This time now we're
then
talking
in
about
quotes,
top,
you
top
should put-
schools in KCSE. If you want to talk about top schools in drama, we shall do a ranking at the end of the second term.
But it's not considered, Eric.
Top
Even
schools
you
in
know
music.
very
If you
well
want
it's
us to
not
do that, we
considered.
can do that.
What
no,
Eric
but,
is saying is actually true.
but it's not
because
considered.
it's true in
It
this
is not
sense.
a point of
If
consideration.
you're talking about football, it's a level playing field. You see, but if you just leave it at football and you don't say, is it football being played by girls or is it football being played by boys? Again, there are details. Is it football in secondary school? Is it football? Why do you think you have tournaments for under 12s, under 18s, under 21s, and then you look at the under 18s, they look like they're 40. The point I'm trying to make here is, if you are going to go this route, please be a little more informative about the details and the variables that you're using to be able to arrive
compare.
at this. Yes. Because then, instead of informing, you're going to be misinforming. Yes.
If we actually take that route, we're going to change a lot of things. Because even when it comes to saying who got an A, if you got an A and you were in a school in Marsabit, then that A counts different.
But we already have affirmative action where that is concerned, and that is why.
But the A is an A in the result slip.
It is, but it is considered. Our education system considers that there are those who are disadvantaged. And when it comes to national schools, you will have affirmative action. And I've heard
what I'm
people even
saying is,
complaining about that.
when it comes now to ranking, the Education Cabinet Secretary is not going to factor in, there's an A that came from somewhere, so this one I'm going to make it push it a little bit high and say, actually, the top student was so and so from Murang'a High. However,
Actually, Eric,
there was an A.
that consideration is taken during moderation, during marking, because it isn't just a school. You look at the overall performance, and overall performance takes into consideration a school like the one you're talking about. Yes.
So when you come now to the mean score of that school, moderation has already taken place.
Yes.
It has already raised
Yes.
the mean score of the school because of the very many circumstances.
With the marks, Eric.
Yeah, but the mean score is about marks.
Eric, I think you know what I'm trying to say, and I also know what you're trying to say. So let's move on to the next topic.
28 minutes to 7, Kenya's biggest conversation. So what's happening on Mombasa Road, wherever you are? I see even Thika Road, even Ruiru, last night, there was chaos along Tatu City getting into Ruiru Town, that road that comes from Kamiti, from Kiambu. I was seeing on Twitter, people were stuck there for a while. So let's hear from everybody wherever they are, and let's hear what's happening. Standard Jobs, that's jobs.standardgroup.co.ke. Have you visited that lately? If you haven't, please do, and then you go and subscribe and get job alerts whenever a job that is relevant to you is advertised. Today, top jobs include Risk and Compliance Officer by Site on Investment, Supervisor, Appeals and Grievance Handling by the Kenya Revenue Authority, Manager, Call Center Operations by Geopol, this and many other jobs. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Nosingishi was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Right, so if you're on Mombasa Road today, headed into town, traffic clears after the big pothole at General Motors. So it opens up after General Motors, but then it slows down again right at the Next Gen Mall. So as you're headed into the city, this is going to take some time. So there's a bit of reprieve in that middle section there, but then it closes up again. Thika Road also, we had traffic as early as 4 a.m. today coming from Ruiru. Yes, it is, into Thika Road, and then what we're looking at, guys, is total madness. 2 hours on a distance of 7 kilometers is really, really crazy. Coming to 6:30 now, people have been on the road from 4. Bypass, assuming that you can use the Eastern Bypass, actually you can, but you're also going to be stuck there for some time. So with Eastern Bypass to and from Thika Road, getting to Mombasa Road, a no-go zone, guys. It's not happening. So if you've not left the house, you might want to think about this strategically, about the way in which you want to go today. From Cabanas, packed, all the way even beyond that, before that, at the SGR on Thika Road, getting into the city, very slow. You can try the service lanes. They'll give some good way to get through, but then not for long. Uhuru Highway from the roundabout through to Westlands is packed as well. Getting into the city today is going to be tough. But let's see what alternatives are there. The Southern Bypass being offered as one, so let's try and use that one. We'll give you more insights as we go along, right, guys? Talk to us. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Kenya stops flights to Somalia in a fresh row, is what we are being told. Move comes after Kenyan operator was barred from making deliveries. Kenya suspended flights to Somalia yesterday after Mogadishu rejected Kenya's scheduled cargo deliveries. The move signals relations between the two neighbors could still be sour. So details of the suspension emerged yesterday after the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority suspended civilian flights between the two countries until the 9th of August. KCAA Director General Gilbert Kibe said last evening that he had received instructions to suspend flights but declined to give reasons. The government has suspended flights, and that is what he said. It would seem as if the Bluebird, which routinely ferries cargo to Somalia, had banked on Mogadishu's statement of resumed relations to request permission. However, the Somali Civil Aviation Authority declined the request because the aircraft was going to deliver neither emergency goods nor perform an evacuation. So without those two factors, you're not coming in. So Kenya said, okay, we're not coming in.
In that case,
neither are you. So
Okay.
it would seem as if things have not thawed as such.
So we still have issues there. Maybe there's more to it.
There is probably.
Maybe there's more to it. There's more to it on because I see the Ministry of Transport just reacting so sharply and drastically and immediately to an issue like that. So a Kenyan flight is barred from entering Somalian airspace, turns back, and then Kenya says, all right, so even you guys, let's not do the same. Maybe there's more to it, because that was a very immediate reaction to this. Not even saying that we're going to have conversations about this.
Things have still not happened. The ambassador is still yet to be recalled and to resume relations.
Had KCAA closed Kenyan airspace from Somali flights?
No.
Initially?
No.
Had Somalia done the same? No. They had only recalled the ambassador. But
flights were still operating.
Some things are not clear. Some things are. It reads like there's something more to it. And in fact, even if you look at the statement by the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, which says it's operational issues and they don't want to go into details. If it was about, we are dealing with the Somali government to talk about our airspace and how we're going to operate, they would have mentioned it. They made it sound like there's more to it that is security related than just diplomatic relations. And I'm saying that bearing in mind that security agencies in Kenya have issued an alert on an Al-Shabaab trained pilot. And they're saying, we're looking for this person who has aviation training, and they are on high alert. Some of those things come into play. I don't know. KCAA did not explain. Okay. So, there's a lot that's happening today. There's the impeachment trial of Wajir Governor Mohamed Abdi Mohamed before the 11-member Senate committee begins today. It happens today and tomorrow. So today is the day for the County Assembly of Wajir to present its case. Tomorrow will be the day for the governor to respond to those accusations. That is something that's going to take place. There's another story that goes with the counties. Nairobi County MCAs have awarded themselves an extra 2 billion shillings in the new budget. In the current financial year, the Assembly had been allocated 2 billion shillings to fund operations, but this has since been reviewed upwards to 4.1 billion shillings. These funds will go towards MCAs' allowances, administration, renovations, staff salaries, and maintenance, among other expenditures. During a special sitting, the Assembly approved the county fiscal strategy paper, which contained the 39.6 billion shillings budget for the next financial year. And according to this revised fiscal paper, the budget increased by 1.9 billion shillings to 39.6 from 37.7. 27 billion shillings will go towards recurrent expenditure, while 12.59 billion shillings is what is earmarked for development, with the Nairobi Metropolitan Services also affected by the changes after its budget for the next financial year was slashed by 5 billion shillings. Now, we are at that stage of budget making. We are at that stage where MCAs are working on next year's budget. We are at that stage where public participation takes place. The budget fiscal strategy paper, which is like what the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury presents to Parliament, has gone through the County Assembly, has been passed. And this is the point when it's emerging that some extra money has been earmarked for expenditure. Public participation on the matter of county budgeting happens at a very low level. And this is a big concern. Because if you went to ask very many organizations, I'm sure organizations such as Wanjiru Gikonyo's TISA, the Institute for Social Accountability, will have participated at one point or the other. But to what degree do citizens and citizen groups actually participate in deciding when Nairobi has a 39.6 billion shillings budget, 40 billion shillings for one county? That's a very high budget. This is a budget of several other countries in Africa. And it's just Nairobi. And then we'll sit back and, talk about, governor, these MCAs, how engaged are we as citizens in interrogating these budgets? Questions.
And if we were to be engaged, what would we need to do in order to be actually engaged? Now, this is where now Menga Miller
with
and
his
his
village.
yes, that's where it comes in. Because what you're talking about, the 39 billion, is an amalgamation of all these little budgets for all these pockets of places within the county, and it amounts to that.
Yes.
So if you start interrogating it at, say, the ward level, and then you carry it up, because at ward level, you can interrogate it.
Yep.
Because what you're being told is containing that budget that is supposed to benefit you, something you can relate to, because it is where you live. It's where you come from. It is possible.
And also you ask yourself, why is Nairobi County spending 27 billion shillings on recurrent expenditure? What's this? Salaries and power and operations,
and power.
27 billion shillings.
They want to build more roads in Nairobi.
This is the budget of another county. And you're only spending it on recurrent expenditure. Explain. Can you justify that? Can you only say that only 13 billion shillings will then go into development? How much development does Nairobi need? How much development will actually go into 13 billion shillings?
I think it's with the understanding that the interrogation we're talking about will not take place, that people sort of like go on this flight of fancy and decide that they're actually going to come up with these lovely figures and say this is what we need for A, B, C, D. Because no one is really going to question and ask, please explain to us what exactly you mean by this. Yes. And even if they do, it'll be some choreographed public participation where you have it in Charter Hall and you've chosen the people who are coming to actually, and they'll ask questions that you've prepped them to ask, and then you'll say, we've had public participation.
Yeah.
Again, Mila Menga, let this participation begin at the
Start
ward
at
level.
Village level.
Yes, let it start at village level and then let it come up, and then we will know, indeed, the public that in Nairobi has participated in this budget.
You can clearly see that everybody is aware. When you talk about, this is how much money we have, everybody knows we have 13 billion shillings for development, and this is what we need to do. Yes.
And in my ward,
we shall
500
get
shillings
this
is for this.
Yes.
And if you're talking about schools, my ward, we are getting 200 shillings.
Yep. Yep. So you participate in raising the money, knowing full well that you are checking on its expenditure. Very good points there by Mila Menga. Let's take a break at 7:15. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Maramoja Transport is here to help you ensure your little kids get to school home safe. Register today to enjoy wonderful benefits from the new school transport solution. If you save more, stay safe, and no stress, get more with Maramoja. Get in touch by logging on to school.maramoja.co.ke. That's school.maramoja.co.ke, or you can email them maramoja@maramoja.co.ke. That's maramoja@maramoja.co.ke. Ask them all the questions. I'd like to get my child enrolled into this service. I'd like my child to go to school using your service. How do I participate? How do I enjoy the service? maramoja@maramoja.co.ke. Good morning.
Mother's Day is coming up, and Naivas Supermarket is here to celebrate it with a Naivas mom. Just like moms, we are resilient, readily available, and always here to serve you. With over 71 fully stocked outlets countrywide and pocket-friendly prices to match all your household shopping needs, we endeavor to make the motherhood journey a little easier. We have Naivas shopping vouchers for a Naivas mom everywhere, as we have been inspired by moms for 30 years. A Naivas mom is a well taken care of mom. Naivas saves you money.
As the Kenyans are roared into the home straight here, 4 Kenyan queens have lit up this balmy Bahamian night.
It's where the rivalry is unmatched, where the soul meets the track, where the great are distinguished from the good. An arena where the records are broken.
A new world record. It's not just been beaten, it's been obliterated.
A stage where the legends are born. For Team Kenya, the Olympics is more than just a sport. It is our tradition. It's an event that has put Kenya on the roadmap. The Standard Group lets you watch every minute and every action live in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Because we live for Team Kenya. We live for the game. At Standard Group, sports lives here.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so 12 minutes to 7. Other headlines.
So low uptake of COVID-19 jabs blamed on misinformation. The low uptake of vaccines had Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe threatening to recall jabs which have not been utilized. So COVID-19 can be transmitted through the air after exposure to very fine respiratory droplets and aerosol particles containing the infectious disease. This is according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, which confirmed this and termed respiratory fluids as the fine droplets released during respiration. So this revelation comes when schools, most of which lack social distancing, have just opened, and teachers' vaccine uptake has also been quite low. Only 143,650 teachers have been vaccinated so far, with Garissa, Marsabit, Lamu, Mandera, Turkana, Wajir, Kwale, Isiolo and Tana River counties with the lowest intake. The risk of transmission is within 3 to 6 feet from an infected person or source, as the droplets or particles can remain suspended in the air for minutes to hours. And this is the latest revelation from the CDC. So previously we had said that it was the Ministry of Health. I had said it was the Ministry of Health, but it is the CDC saying that the problem with the low uptake actually is misinformation, that folks are thinking that the vaccine can actually cause changes to your DNA. It gives you blood clots. It's a family planning tool. It affects libido and causes erectile dysfunction. And they're saying that these are some of the things that they have heard. And it fuels now the vaccine apathy that we are seeing in the country. And that even with the jabs available, people are not taking them. And the reason for this is misinformation. And so the onus of the responsibility is on the Ministry of Health to then give the right information. And according to them, should they do this, then you would see an increase in the uptake.
Okay.
The UN,
Go ahead.
The UN has a report, an interesting report that it issues every year. Now, the report for 2021, and this is the state of world midwifery, midwives, okay? And it tells us this, that we in Kenya only have 2,092 midwives against the required number of at least 28,000.
Okay.
Now, this may not appear to be something that is really important, but when you consider that this is a country with a growing population, meaning children are always being born, okay? And the majority of children who are being born are not being born in hospitals. They're being born, or rather, their birth is in areas that may not have the medical facilities that you see in these wonderful swanky hospitals that we speak of. So this role of midwives becomes absolutely necessary. But it's not just something that is solitary. It's against a background of something that is also very interesting, that among the things we have a shortage of in Kenya is also something we refer to as health workers.
Health workers.
Community health workers, okay? We only have 5,000, okay? 808 who are dedicated to this work out of a population of 58,079. This is according to this report. The figures I'm throwing about here are referring to a shortage that is not only in Kenya, it's in the world. The world over, they say there's a shortage of something like 900,000, a shortage of midwives, okay? Now, the problem with this is if the numbers or the investment in this sector is not taken into account, then the death, what you call the mortality rate among children who are being born in the country continues rising. Because midwifery is what guarantees that any mother who is in distress, any situation where a child is likely to be born, you have somebody within
the community,
yes, who not only understands but is able to cater for this.
That's the way it was.
It has been.
It has been that way for so long, because I do remember reports whereby, within the community, a woman was giving birth. Very rarely did you have those who would go to hospital. Midwife would be able to visit people's homes, or there was somebody that somebody could dash to and call, and they knew that in this area there was this person, so and so, who would be able to come and deliver this woman. Right? So it was the case. It was the practice. So now when you say shortage of health workers, then it would seem that what needs to happen is that the tools need to be put in the hands of community workers again, the way it was before, instead of putting that entire burden on hospitals that people are having trouble accessing anyway.
So
if you put the tools so that they can actually have people in communities who can participate, it would help a great deal.
If you talk to some people in the Ministry of Health, they'll tell you that actually community health workers are trained on midwifery. Some are trained. And then you talk to some OBGYNs and they tell you that is the wrong approach. You need to have midwives trained as midwives who have a different kind of training and not just having community health workers who are midwives. So there's been that back and forth. I remember some very vocal OBGYNs saying, no, we don't have. So when we talk about that report, I think the source also of the report and the approach and the definition of a midwife, because that's where now the other whole debate comes in. Some OBGYN saying that, some of these people are not considered midwives. Some people in the health ministry and others in the health sector saying they champion the use of community health workers and community midwives to be considered midwives.
Generally speaking, a midwife could be considered a community health worker, but who specializes in midwifery.
Yes.
Because health worker, community health worker, it's a broad term. And the functions may be as varied as they are needs. But when you're talking about, let me just give you some of the figures that they've thrown at us. 62 out of every 100 pregnant women are attended to by a skilled birth attendant. Okay? The maternal mortality stands at 342 for every 100,000 live births. Neonatal mortality rate stands at 20% per 1,000 live births, while stillbirths rate stands at 20% of 1,000. These are not really acceptable figures.
They really are not.
Now, one of the reasons why midwifery was so important was because it was a member of the community that people knew and trusted.
Yes.
And there are many people and who had been, should we say born, went to hospital after they had been born. And the reason was you had midwives, you had skilled midwives. One of the things that I think this PEP for funding did with HIV, it sought to train traditional midwives to give them or imbue them with additional skills that would enable them to meet the demands of the times in which we live in. But it is not something that was taken seriously by the parent ministry that is supposed to look after these things. Now, if you wish to have the curative approach to medical care, where you end up with doctors looking after everybody, it won't work because there aren't enough doctors to look after everybody. If you want to have the preventative approach, where you have people who, before something becomes an emergency, it is dealt with and nipped in the bud. As we talk of community health workers, in the broad sense of the word, and you talk of trained midwives or trained birth attendants at the local level, then you are actually solving a really big problem and using a resource that already exists. Yes.
Interesting one. There's an interesting conversation, a story here in the nation. Some 3 years ago, there was a story of a woman and her nephew who had been shot at City Park in Nairobi. They had spent a night together, clubbing, chewing mirror, and then they decided to go to City Park and park and rest, according to the nephew who survived. So police say that passers-by alerted the police and said, there's a vehicle there at City Park early this morning and you don't know what's happening. So these police officers, 2 police officers, approached the vehicle. They asked the occupants to open the doors. The occupants did not open the doors. They sped off. The police shot at the vehicle. Shot the woman, she died. Shot the man, he was badly injured. Now, the police officers have been found guilty of unintentionally killing a woman in Nairobi. And so basically the court said, you do not have to use that kind of force that you used in apprehending this. The whole story had come out even in court, that the two were having some unhealthy relationship between the woman and her nephew. And what were they doing at the park? Their nephew says, absolutely no way. Court says, their relationship is neither here nor there. It's not a subject of this court. It's not for the court to determine what they were doing at that early hour of the morning in a public park. Now, if you had anything more that you needed to find out, you had very many other ways and means of finding out, not opening fire. So they've been found guilty of unintentionally killing. Manslaughter.
Yep.
Proved beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Raises very many questions and issues on, so why did the police act as like they did? These police officers, there were some other police officers who had been assigned to patrol this park. These police officers are not among the officers that had been assigned to patrol the park. How did they end up here? There was a terrorist operation going on in the city around that time where police were on high alert looking out for some terror suspects. Very many moving parts. Bottom line, woman died 3 years ago.
But there are many groups who are asking these questions, the likes of Amnesty, the likes of others who are saying, how many more deaths are happening, and now asking questions in terms of how many people have actually died at the hand of police who've not asked questions but have fired first.
Yep.
And there are many people who have died without these questions being answered. And it's still open investigations for them.
What is also true, these things are not only tragically sad or unfortunate, but you really wish you didn't have to keep reading this.
Yes.
But the question that I ask often in such cases, and I'm going to ask again, do we ensure that we equip our police force with everything that they need to carry out their duties well? And when I say equip, it's not just do they have uniform, do they have boots? No, not that, not that. Do they live in quarters that enable them to have enough rest? Are they trained and retrained adequately? Do you have counseling services for policemen? Because they always find themselves in very traumatic situations, just in their everyday work.
Even spending an entire night on duty and you're on foot patrol.
And like now it's raining.
And it's been raining the whole night. Those are very many big issues. Anyway, good morning. It's 7 o'clock. Time for the news.
This is Newswire. I am Dennis Aseto. Nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura has received temporary reprieve after High Court issued orders to stay implementation of the Gazette notice published by Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka. Justice Joseph Sergon issues the orders, saying that the matter is urgent and will be handled as such. He has also suspended implementation of the decision of the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal that upheld Jubilee's decision to expel the senator. 21 people died in the last 24 hours, 16 on various dates within the last month, and 2 late deaths reported discovered after facility records. This brings the total number of fatalities to 2,928. Meanwhile, 129 patients have recovered from the disease, including 65 from various health facilities across the country and 64 from home-based care and isolation. The Nairobi court has found 2 police constables guilty of manslaughter in the killing of a businesswoman in City Park 2 years ago. Janet Wayaki's death has now been blamed on police constables William Chirchir and Godfrey Kirui. High Court Judge Stella Mutuku ruled that the officers' use of force was not proportional to the threat.
That the force used was not proportional to the objective to be achieved. Firstly, there was no offense invoked. None had been committed. This is by the deceased or the Chege who was driving. Because of the sloppy manner this vehicle was handled by the police, crucial evidence was lost, and this court was denied the chance to determine the condition the vehicle was in after the shooting.
Deputy President William Ruto has called for better cooperation between Kenya and Romania, especially on bilateral trade and investment. Ruto spoke in Nairobi after holding talks with outgoing Romania ambassador to Kenya, Yulia Pataki. IG Hilary Mutembai has ordered the arrest of a group of men captured on a viral video forcefully dragging a man on the ground. The National Police Service says the video caught their attention and confirmed that the incident occurred within Ukunda in Kwale County. The IG ordered the regional police commander, Coast Region, to immediately arrest all the perpetrators of the offense and arraign them. Israel has declared a state of emergency in the central city of Lod after routing by Israel Arabs. A conflict between Israel forces and Palestinian militants intensified. Cars set alight and 12 people were reported injured in clashes likened to a civil war. Palestinian militants fired hundreds of rockets deep into Israel, while Israel carried out heavy airstrikes on Gaza. On to sports and football. Kenya Federation is currently carrying out COVID-19 tests for Kenya Premier League clubs in various parts of the country in anticipation to the league's resumption on Friday. The league was initially set to restart today, but on Monday evening, FKF pushed the date to 3 days later to pave way for the testing exercise. Each club is representing 25 players and 10 officials for the exercise as required by the federation, which is footing the testing course. I'm Dennis Doll. Good morning.
All right, it's so bad on Mombasa Road that folks are offering up prayers to heaven to get out of this one. Now, the route that was being used to avoid General Motors now is a single lane route. And this is the ICD road. A trailer has broken down on one side, leaving it now a single lane, and it is causing massive traffic because of that. Remember, folks are running away from General Motors. Now, the option that was being used also now is compounded with traffic. It doesn't look like a pretty day on the roads today at all. All right, let's look at Thika Road. That also is not looking good. Kiambu Road is jam-packed, and today it's all the way as far back as Rock City. Guys, this is not happening today. Thika Road, we're looking at all the way from Roiro. As you approach the Kenyatta University, it is clear. But folks are taking as much as 3 hours now. Started at 4 o'clock on Thika Road today. The service lane, the main highway, jam-packed. And everybody's trying to get into the city at the same time. So this is what we're looking at. Jogo Road, absolutely no-go zone, not for now. It's piled up as you try to approach the roundabout and then go towards Landis Road. So everywhere you look, there is drama. Uhuru Highway, jam-packed all the way from the junction of Mombasa Road through to Westlands. Coming into the city also, it is slow, and it's raining. The Southern Bypass is where you can get some good reprieve. Coming into the city, use Wangari Maathai Road if you can. Let's take a look at what it looks like in half an hour, but right now it doesn't look pretty good. It needs some patience, and we're going to be stuck for a while. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, talk to us.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start.
Coming up to 6 minutes after 7, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, broadcasting from Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, to the world on www.spicefm.co.ke or SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Once again, in the next hour at 8, we'll have the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, Farida Karone, to respond to all questions about the new Land Information Management System, ARTISASA, and also the new law, the Section of Properties Act. How do you register your flat? How do you register your house which is in a gated community with one mother title. All those things are serious points of concern, and they've been having conversations online. So if you have any question, please post the questions online, and then we will ask her to respond. CT, today's proverb.
Right. When the mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her.
When the mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her.
Yes.
Under instructions. Is the kid instructed by the mother, stand there by the door?
You see, children tend to hang around their mothers. So the things that the mothers do, the mother may not be aware for whatever reason, but the children are watching. They watch because they're there.
So is this, would you interpret the proverb to mean basically whatever you're doing, your children are watching? Or the bad manners that you are engaged in, your children are basically just watching?
The power of example.
The power of example?
Yes. The power of example. Not the power of what you say, the power of what you do. How is it that little children play home by pretending to cook? Because they have seen people cooking. And how is it that traditionally you would always find that it is the little girls who are pretending to cook? Okay? And because
the
they
boys
have
come home.
observed. Yes. Now, and then you talk about how we are hardwired into certain traditional norms. It is because we observe these things in operation. We see them and we see how they function. Yes. So if the mother goat had actually gone to simply chew on some grass, the kid would also watch.
Yep.
If the mother went to sleep, the kid would also watch, and the kid would also imitate and go to sleep. By the same token, if the mother goat decides to break into the yam store, because that's where the food is,
the kid is watching.
The kid will enjoy the proceeds from the yam store, but the kid will also know how it was acquired.
Okay.
Or where to find food should they be hungry in the future.
Yes. The details of whether it is this or the other will not arise.
Okay.
Yes. Those come later when the child is old and they understand that perhaps these things have consequences. Yes.
Or if they see the mother going through the consequences.
Or if they see the mother going through the consequences.
Indeed. Okay, so what's happening? It's rained, and therefore there's traffic.
Okay, so
is that what we're saying? A squared plus B squared is leading to C squared.
Yeah, in this case, it might be. Then is there something?
Eric, you can look at me as long as you like. I didn't get those C squared things when I was in school. I still don't get them now.
You still call them
so you can C square yourself to oblivion. Yes, you're saying something.
Wow. You can keep squaring yourself. Okay, so normally when it rains, things slow down. All right? When it rains, people are a little bit more cautious on the roads, and then they say, okay, well, put on your lights, and we don't want to get into an accident. But now, let's look at the schematics of Nairobi and what's going on right now. Mombasa Road is one of those. It says that when Mombasa Road sneezes, everybody everywhere else in the city catches a cold. And that seems to be what is the case now. So we have construction going on Mombasa Road all through. This is from Syokimau all the way to the roundabout and then out towards the Westlands. That entire stretch is going
all the way to Rironi.
Right.
In Limuru.
In Limuru.
Yes.
That's what's happening now. Okay? So people were going slow when it was raining anyway. So now enter this construction and things have actually gotten much worse. All right? So even with people going at a slower pace, now we have this construction. And if you look at what's going on now, certain parts of the road are no longer there. The road in terms of size has been reduced significantly. We have one lane where there used to be 3 in some parts. We have one lane where there used to be 2. And then even on the one lane that was left over, it has narrowed down significantly. And this is particularly between Cabanas and General Motors, and then further on at around the next Gen Mall, all the way through to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. So you have lesser road, a smaller portion of the road to work with. And traffic that normally would start at about 5, 6 in the morning now has started as early as 4 o'clock. People yesterday got to their places of work at 11 o'clock. And they were on the road at 5. because they have to navigate Mombasa Road.
Wow.
There was rain that happened for 12 hours the day before, and that was on Sunday night. And then we see rain, and then we had a waterlogged situation whereby, why did we have a waterlogged situation? Because the road has been dug up and left that way. Rain comes in, fills it up, and then people are not able to move in the way they normally would. Secondly, it has rained for a prolonged period of time. That water has no outlet. People are going slower. People are having accidents. Vehicles are stalling, which compounds the traffic situation. People are then using the outlets such as the bypasses, and those are not offering any reprieve because you then come back and then you join Thika Road. Now, combine all of that with the extra percentage of vehicles that there are on the roads now that schools opened on Monday. And this is a situation that we have now. Mombasa Road and Thika Road, people have been on the road for 3 hours and have moved in 3 hours just a span of 5 kilometers. It's madness. That's what's going on right now. And people are crying. We don't even know how we're going or what time we're going to get to work today.
Okay. So the various causes of traffic all are summed up into one. Ongoing construction, ongoing narrowing of the roads, and not sufficient diversions created or alternative routes created and proper marshalling of traffic in these areas.
Like Mombasa
because
Road,
if you
there's
talk
nothing.
about now Mombasa Road, coming to General Motors, so you're saying from City Gabanas, you get into a waterlogged space at Imara Daima, go up the bridge, the railways bridge, come down now to General Motors,
Into one
and
lane.
into a single lane. And that has been there for a while.
Yes.
So it basically just narrows down suddenly into a single lane. Is that single lane motorable?
It is.
Okay. But it just basically comes down into a single lane. And then it opens up again. You were saying, CT earlier, Next Gen Mall, between Next Gen Mall and Nyayo Stadium roundabout, another...
It's a
Single
gridlock.
lane.
It's a gridlock. Believe me, it is easier to actually walk from Standard Media headquarters here, just walk and go to town.
It's true.
Then drive.
Yeah, you will get to town quicker. Walk, and don't even walk fast. Just walk at a nice, gentle pace.
Those who are coming now from town on using the same route, so from Haile Selassie roundabout, you get a narrowing of the lanes.
Yes, you do.
As you approach Bunyala roundabout.
Yes, you do.
And then you find it's been closed.
Yes.
Between Bunyala and Nyayo Stadium roundabout, closed.
So you go
find
down
your way down,
Bunyala.
going into
Baricha Road,
and all, or you go
a
all the way.
circumlocutions route.
Yes.
Or you follow that
Go all the
inside
way
lane.
into-
There are all sorts of pathways.
Come back up Lusaka.
Precisely.
Okay. And then you come back again. At South Sea, just near the mall,
Yes.
again, some diversion.
Yes.
And this one, not motorable.
No.
It's basically a cattle truck.
Yes.
With serious potholes.
It's soup.
That slows you down to 1 kilometer per hour.
Half.
If at all. And then, so it's basically chaos. And we're only talking about that small section of Mombasa Road. If you go to Westlands, you'll find the same issues happening. You go even beyond ABC Place where the expressway ends. There's still construction happening between ABC Place and Rironi, where there has been diversion upon all this. It affects everyone. My question is, the contractor. As you were designing this project, as you were coming up with the project and deciding, this is how we're going to roll out the project. We'll have a section here. We'll close down this section at this point between X number of days and open it up. You must have had alternative plan for transportation. You must have looked at the number of vehicles that used the road on a daily basis. You must have, mapped out the peak hours and known these are the peak hours. These are the number of vehicles on this road at these peak hours. So you must have factored it in. I keep saying engineering is a discipline of solutions, of creating efficiency. So definitely at some point when this project was being planned, all those things are somewhere on paper. So what happens? If you just talk about this simple example of the closure of the road for 29 days between Nyayo Stadium and Bunyala Road, they had clearly said, we are closing it for how many days? We shall open it on this day. And then a day before, they say, we shall extend it by a further 29 days. You ask yourself, so what went wrong?
Eric, if you apply this route on a daily basis, there's something that they never discuss. If you are in a vehicle, whether it's a public transport vehicle or a private vehicle, privately owned vehicle, what happens is this. When you drive at that slow speed, one, you're consuming more fuel.
Yeah.
You're polluting the air more.
Yeah.
Okay? But more importantly, because of the horrible state of the road, the wear and tear. And in some cases, not even wear and tear. Your car actually experiences something traumatic. It can even get damaged. We've seen pictures of cars actually falling into crevices that were supposed to be just a part of a road.
Yeah.
And the reason is there wasn't an adequate barrier. Instead, there was a shoestring that was put across, a yellow shoestring that's supposed to stop you. When it is dark, you can't even see it.
Yeah.
So you ask yourself the simple question, what is it that all these people who are employed by the government, by the county government, who belong to these departments that are supposed to handle our roads, what on earth do they do? Because that contractor is employed by the government or has an understanding with the government.
Yes.
But the government has the overall oversight. What is it that they're doing? And you know, this is a tired story. Every time you have a diversion and there's a road, some improvement, it is the same story. And these inconveniences pile up.
And we've gotten to a point where we are accustomed to this. And the government is accustomed, oh, it's okay. I mean, it's just a small
They'll
time.
put up with it.
They'll put up with it. They'll get used to it. I mean, they'll get home at midnight. That's fine. And for very many people, this becomes a daily occurrence. You can't even plan your own journey. So somebody says that they have spent more than an hour at 3:40 a.m. There are photos online. 3:40 a.m. traffic on Mombasa Road at Imaradaima at 3:40 a.m. Somebody is saying at 6:10 a.m. I'm yet to get near City Cabanas, and the saddest part of it is that there are no alternative routes.
Okay, so you can imagine when previously you said, okay, you know what, there was an understanding for anybody who comes to Mombasa Road or lives in Mombasa Road needs to get off Mombasa Road to go where they're going. There was the understanding already, even before this construction began, that, you know what, we have to leave early. So folks would leave at 5 o'clock because, you know, right, if I'm going to be in the city at 7, I need to leave at 5 because it just gets too bad. So can you imagine the kind of trauma that's going on right now when you leave your house and say, okay, construction is even worse, let's leave at 4. Can you imagine you leave your house at 4 o'clock, you get onto Mombasa Road, and then what do you find? You find a mess on Mombasa Road. So what time then are we asking folks to leave home in order to get where they're going? And is it for just a short period of time? I remember a couple of weeks ago when the CS Transport, Wanamusheru visited, and he said, you know what, I think he even had a press conference somewhere there and said, you know what, I'm very sorry and our apologies to Kenyans who have to use this road for a prolonged period of time, but we're giving you our assurance that by December this will be sorted out. I mean, all well and good, an apology is nice, it sounds good, but practicality of having to either make an apology every day, to sit and then invite issues of road rage every single day, you know, is not funny.
The apology is not necessary because there are other practical measures that can be taken to ensure that even as the road is being built, there is a safe passageway that people can use.
This is what I'm saying.
The traffic may be slower, but it moves.
Yes.
All right?
And then also you create some alternatives.
Yes.
You can come up with an alternative and say, for example, people getting here, you can use this particular road, the new ICD road to the Southern Bypass. Give people directions. You can use this, then we reduce the amount of traffic on this particular road that's under construction.
My issue...
So only people who need to come somewhere along this road are the ones, people who need to cross over,
divert, go
from Mombasa
go
Road, and they're going to town, get other roads.
Yeah.
You know, there's something that isn't being considered here. When you open schools, when schools are opened, what you then have is this abnormal and bizarre situation where children are waking up at 4 so that they can actually get to school on time.
Yeah.
Now, the question you want to ask is, okay, if you're so to wake up at 4 and you're a child, and with the system that we have, what time does that child sleep?
No, think about it like this. You're putting them on that road at that early hour. They've got to come back. So they're getting out of school when traffic also is at its peak. What time are they coming back home? So you have the same children, exactly. You have the same children who are on the roads at 5 in the morning right? They're getting to school just a few minutes before 8, sometimes very late. They're coming home at 6:30 in the evening. Then they have homework, right? They're going to sort that out, and then they're going to get to bed. And the children who should be having 10 hours of sleep, right, are getting 7.
You know, with this road, you're thinking they get home even at 8, even at 9 sometimes.
This is what we're talking about.
Because of these jams. Now, I'm going somewhere with this. When a child is developing, one of the things you don't really want to do is to interfere with the development of their brain. And an absence of adequate sleep, an introduction and infusion of the stress that is waking up early does, I can actually tell you what happens along the line and how it is that mind develops and what becomes of this child.
And you will not be able to pinpoint it to something that you would say as simple as sleep. That
And
they do
yet
not
it
get,
is
and,
sleep.
and that is the problem, and that is the issue.
Yes.
Right? And that is the problem. A daughter who comes home and she's tired at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening and is just frustrated, and you're wondering, okay, what's going on here? They're not getting enough sleep.
No, they're not resting enough.
They're not resting enough.
And unfortunately, that rest is what is crucial to the development of their brain. Something quite simple, nothing complicated.
So here we see something like infrastructure in a country, and you say, okay, it's infrastructure, it's engineering, and then why are we really making such a big deal out of it? And why couldn't we even provide things like alternatives? Can we see how we can connect the dots here now? And to say that something like that, can you see now how it affects so many other things? So when you're taking these things into consideration as a project for implementation, are you looking down the line to see how your lack of planning and implementation can actually affect very many other things? You may see it as, okay, yeah, we're actually trying to make things better. We're building a road. Okay, we're constructing something. An expressway is absolutely necessary for the city.
It's a good thing.
It's fantastic. But in the implementation of the same, are you looking at everything else that is being affected and dealing with it? Because guess what? In other countries where companies just like this work, guess what? They take those things into consideration. That's why countries like Japan, you have a road that needs to be sorted out, my friend, you will work at night. They will give you all the infrastructure necessary so that by the time people are waking up in the morning, that thing is done. We move. A pothole needs to be sorted out. You don't have it being worked on in peak hours. It's done at night when everybody is asleep. You come and work at night. We put the floodlights, we put everything that you need, you get it done. Because they understand how it affects everything else. So you ask yourself, I have a child in the house who is frustrated and not able to learn. It is a direct effect of them being, for example, on the road for hours.
Yep.
You have people who are angry, showing up to work and then are not able to perform. Why? Somebody who's been on like now, these people who are talking to us on social media, they've been on the road for 4 hours, since 3. They come into the office. Do you expect that individual is going to be productive on that day?
And you know that they're thinking of how they're going to go back.
They're thinking about going back home.
Yeah, so how much of that brain power is actually going to be used in work?
Productivity drops drastically.
Drastically. Somebody, for example, who knew that they were taking product to market and that their peak hours were going to be in the morning, but then they are stuck in public service vehicles for 3-4 hours. They've lost out on the day's sales. They're going to have to wait until later on in the day. And by that time, they're thinking about how they're going to come home. This is opening it up, right? So let's see how just the construction of a road has gone into how it affects family life, has gone into how it affects your work in the office, has gone into how it affects your business, how it affects the markets, how it affects everything. Necessary for us to take these things into consideration and call it out when it doesn't, because it's not being handled.
Do consider this
all we get is an apology.
Consider this cumulative frustration. Children are frustrated, parents are frustrated, people at the workplace are
people who are transporting you are frustrated.
Police officers are frustrated.
Yes,
but
completely.
The police officers are just also victims of this. Huh?
Yeah.
No, this one is not. This one is out of their hands.
Yes. I told you I was on the road yesterday. I was in a I think it's called it
one of those
Uber thing, right? The Uber then that I was in, this fellow is, because we're there 11 o'clock until 12:30. That stretch between Next Gen and Nyayo Stadium, 1.5 hours. It was then pulled over by a cop. This woman did not hear what this driver was saying. She just said, "Mimi nitakupeleka kotini." She was not even ready to hear anything. Frustrated woman, frustrated driver, frustrated
passenger,
frustrated everybody. Now, how many of those will you
multiply
replicate?
that by the people who are behind you, who are being inconvenienced because your vehicle has stopped?
Yes.
And then there are these clever Kenyans who like overlapping.
Yep.
Okay, You're steadily following a queue, and then somebody, because they have a bigger vehicle which has bigger wheels than yours and can traverse that terrain that is uneven, and suddenly, instead of 2 lanes, you're 4 lanes. So now no one is moving. No one is moving.
This is 12:30 in the afternoon.
It's really frustrating, and it's really, really annoying. And I take it all back to that Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Urban Development and Housing, because that's the one that's in charge of this development of infrastructure, of roads. That's the ministry in charge of the Kenya National Highways Authority that is managing the construction of the expressway on Mombasa Road. When this project was being flagged by the president, all plans should have been in place.
Absolutely.
All contingencies should have been in place. So the contractor has come and presented their work plan and said, we want to start here. We'll be closing off at this section of the road on month 3, month 4. It's a complete project plan. And they're also indicating milestones, which this will be the milestone by month 3, milestone by month 6, milestone by month 9, like that. Question number 1 would be, as you are doing this, when you narrow down the traffic on this particular section of the road, what will be the alternatives? That's question number 1 that you ask. Because either you're saying that we announce, we tell people, leave your cars at home, we shall provide alternative transport, or we are telling people, use this alternative route. What of those were put in place? So you close down, yes, you've closed a section between Bunyala Road and Nyayo Stadium roundabout. And you've told people, all right, so what you do is when you're coming from town, you just go down and then come back up and then...
Just like that. Easy peasy.
And you come back,
Yes.
That particular route is interesting.
Imagine. But guess what? Use that Nyeri route, you get arrested by cops.
Just go down, come up like this. Okay? These are the alternatives. Is that alternative very well thought out?
It is not.
Is it going to create some backlog at some point? Remember, you're telling people who are coming from town and they're going towards Mombasa Road to meet on Lusaka Road with people who are coming from South B and they're going to town.
Yes.
People who are coming from industrial area and they're going to Langata. People who are coming from Jogoo Road and they're going to Langata or Ngata Rongai. All those cars at some point, people who are going to Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale, people who are going to Ngata Rongai, Kajiado, Langata,
Airport.
Nairobi West, Airport, people who
are leaving, going to Thika Road,
will be on Lusaka Road at some point.
Yes.
Approaching Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Have you factored in that?
No.
And yet there are people.
And yet you expect that, we just close like that and
then we just extend it for another 20 days. No big deal.
Yet we have people in this country who are trained and know exactly how to do this very thing we're discussing. So that, yes, things may be a little slower, but we would not be having this discussion the way we are, because traffic will be moving, because there's an alternate route. But you know what really concerns me is the multiply effect of the frustrations that we have. You think that if you complete this road in December, all the frustration that has been built up over this time will suddenly disappear in December.
Yeah.
It won't.
It will be Christmas for everybody.
It won't be. And why I'm saying it won't be is because look at the net result of all the violence and all the crazy things that we keep reporting and talking about. Where do you think these things come from?
It's interesting, as you say, this Chilimo on social says today, someone needs to tag the traffic commandant in charge of Mombasa Road. Our mental health is at stake.
Yep.
People are going crazy. You can imagine somebody who doesn't want to know, somebody who's in an office somewhere in Westlands is waiting for the employees to show up, and they live in Kitengela and they're coming to work, and you've been stuck on Mombasa Road for 3 hours. You've not moved past Cabanas, and you still have to then approach Nyayo Stadium, use the southern bypass, whichever way you want to go. You want to go to Outer Ring and then get into the city and then traverse that way. Is your boss going to listen to you every single day when you come and say, I'm sorry, I'm late, but it is Mombasa Road?
It won't work.
It's not going to work. And this is what we're talking about. What alternates have there been? In my engineering, it is my father who was an engineer. I have no idea. I don't know. But simple logic tells me that you can open an alternative for people to use to, yes, go at a slower rate, but they still get where they're going within reasonable time while you work on one section. It is not possible that you close everything down at the same time.
A one-way road, and make another one another way road, and make sure that traffic is moving.
It's not possible that you close everything at the same time.
Yeah, that's it. It's about solutions and efficiency. That's what engineering is all about. What we see with our engineers is the complete opposite. We're going to open up the phone lines because we've ranted and ranting enough, and we can see the ranting and frustration that's happening on social media. 0719 012 600. Are you stuck on the road this morning? Open up. We know it's building up in your mind, inside you. Just let it out. 0719 012 600. Call, rant, feel better. There's nothing that we can do about it apart from that. 7:30, time for us to look at the traffic and the weather forecast.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a melee. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, it's rain showers in Nairobi, 17 degrees. We're going to go to highs of 21 today, lows of 16. 15 degrees and cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 21. 22 will be the high in Nakuru. Light rain this morning as well. It's mostly cloudy in Eldoret at 15, lows of 13, highs of 20. 25 the high and lows of 18 in Kisumu. It's raining there. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kakamega at 19, highs of 24. We'll see highs of 31 in Mombasa. It's raining at 25. Mostly cloudy conditions in Malindi at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 27. Rain showers in Kampala this morning at 19, highs of 23 and lows of 18. It's sunny in Dar es Salaam at 23 with highs of 30 today. 23 will be the high in Johannesburg where it's clear. It's a mostly cloudy morning in Lagos at 26, highs of 32 and highs of 33 in Kinshasa where it's mostly clear.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Okay, so a lot of folks complaining, especially about Mombasa Road today. Mombasa Road, quite thick and heavy. Where else are we looking at drama? North Airport Road, Outer Ring also is jam-packed. Going towards Jogo Road as well. Hamza, through to the City Stadium roundabout. It's not moving. It's jam-packed in some areas. Onto Landis Road and getting into the city, very, very slow as well. The ICD route coming from Mombasa Road is a one-lane route now. There's a trailer that has stalled there, so that's not happening. Coming from Thika Road, Kiambu Road is also jam, no butter. Let's hear from you guys. You find an alternate route that we can use. Talk to us. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
Okay,
Spice up
25
yourself.
minutes to 8. So let's just go to the rant lines. Caro in Mogoga, good morning. Caro? Switch off your radio, please, Caro. Let's hear from Lawrence. Lawrence in Nairobi. Good morning, Lawrence.
Yes, morning. How are you doing?
Very well.
Yes, I'm saying it's state of our roads up because of corruption.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you see, the people who are in charge, like the engineers, who are employed by the government,
Mm.
they are corrupt because they should factor in, all the eventualities. Because at the time they are designing the roads, they should factor in even the pedestrians.
Mm.
But you see, because they want to spend less money, so that they build something that is not good, and people don't even care anyway. Because we have reached a state where people don't care. Every man for himself, God for us all.
Yeah.
So it's about corruption.
It's all about corruption. Thank you, Lawrence. Nelson in Syokimau, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Now, fine, thank you.
Okay.
Now, it's really annoying because there are actually alternate roads that could be opened up for the public to use, and these are traffic Mombasa Road.
Mm.
There is a road that passes in front of the SGR terminal.
Yep.
And goes through the KCAA land.
Yes.
Which they closed off and said it's a private road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it goes and comes out behind Libra House.
Mm-hmm.
That would ease our traffic significantly if it was opened up.
Yep.
There's another road built by taxpayers' money that goes through behind the SGR, and again comes and joins the ICD road. Again, that's a private Chinese road, and they put a barrier there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, that would ease up traffic. There's another road that was closed off during Kibaki's time. That was called, I think, it was called the North Airport Road.
Yep.
That cuts from the airport. You go through the airport and come out at
into Outer Ring.
It joins into Outer Ring Road. If those three roads were open to the public, they would significantly ease the pain of Mombasa road users. It's gotten to a point where we can't plan our days.
That's very true.
You leave in the
I
morning.
feel your pain. Where are you stuck right now, Nelson? Are you on the road?
Today I'm working from the house. I was supposed to go for a meeting. I've had to call and cancel because it's going to take me 3 hours to commute to town for a half an hour meeting to come back again.
6 hours for half an hour meeting.
Exactly. Doesn't make any sense, does it?
None at all. Thank you very much, Nelson. Caro in Mogoga, good morning.
Good morning, Latif. Good morning, Ndu.
Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, Kitty.
Good morning.
I'm enjoying the conversation and thank you for giving us a platform to rant.
Go ahead.
What I want to say is really all this are a result of systematic failures. We have an ineffective ministry that is not doing its oversight role. We have, what can we call them? Procurement officers masquerading as engineers working in Kenya because their sole interest is who's paying what. Yeah, and not about engineering and planning. We have urban planners who don't really care about what's happening in this city. So you find Wayaki Way, Mombasa Road, virtually all the roads in this city are impassable. Like where we live in Mogoga, the roads are flooded. So we have to go round and come out at Ekamoja so that we can leave our houses. Yeah, the construction has been going on now for 3 years. There is no end in sight. The timelines that they give are not met.
They keep
but
changing
no one is held accountable.
They keep changing
and no one is held accountable.
Sure.
We can't have Chinese contractors coming to construct roads for months on end without making any progress.
Recently, when the cabinet secretary visited them, they asked for some extension by 6 months, and the cabinet secretary told them, no way. He cut down that 6 months into what? Something like 3 months?
3 months.
But still, he'll extend it.
Yeah, they'll extend it. We have places where they have dug trenches literally outside people's gates. People cannot live with their cars in an effort to manage the water. I mean, they knew the rains were coming in April. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are stuck here at Mogoga for 30 minutes because they can't even be bothered to tarmac a diversion. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
It's annoying. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah. People should be held accountable.
Indeed, they should. Audrey in Kino, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you doing today?
Morning, morning, City.
Morning, Audrey.
Good morning.
My problem is we have leaders who have an elitist way of thinking. They sit back in their offices and they make decisions without factoring in what their decisions imply to the common mwananchi. And I ask time and again, do these people who make decisions actually live in Kenya, live in Nairobi? And I'm not talking about living in Nairobi where when you're passing any road, you have sirens and everyone passes the road and leaves you to pass through. Do you actually live in Nairobi where you have to sit in traffic for hours and understand what it actually means to sit in traffic when it's raining? What it actually means to have your children stuck on the road. They're unable to get to school on time. They're unable to get back home on time.
They don't relate.
Do they live in Nairobi to understand that when you get to work late 2-3 days on a row, then you start having issues with your employer? Because if they actually did, if they understood, and if they did not have this elitist way of thinking, then they would not be making decisions from afar.
That's very true. Thank you very much, Audrey.
Thank you.
And I think what you're saying is also what Dr. Ndia Njoya is saying, and this is what she's saying on social media, that interesting listening to SpiceFM this morning, and says we are trying to turn the Mombasa Road problem as a technical one, bad planning, poor PR. The jam is not a technical problem, Dr. Ndia Njoya says. It's a political problem. We are stuck in a jam because politicians think that the rich need an express road. Dr. Njoya is on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So,
morning. I'm so agreeing with Audrey. People who plan don't think about the rest of us and what this means. I mean, they shouldn't have even started the Mombasa Road construction when Waiyaki Way is not even complete.
So when you say it's more political than technical, explain that.
It comes from a belief that development means more than people. So it doesn't matter what development puts us through. What matters is that a road is built. But the roads are supposed to be for the people. They are not supposed to be for political campaigns and saying what I have done.
Legacy.
Yeah, it's not for legacy. Are Kenyans able to go about their business? That is not the question they ask. What they ask is, have we met their targets? So that's why I'm against the idea of targets and planning and whatever. The fundamental question they should have asked is, what does this mean for the Kenyan people? For us, it means traffic jams and frustration.
I agree with you there, Dr. Njoya. But then also, don't you see the role that the public service, the civil service has to play here? When the politicians come up with a plan and say, we'd like to go ahead and implement a promise that we made to the people. We want to construct roads. There's an expressway between JKIA and ABC Place. At the same time, there's expansion of a road between ABC Place and Rironi in Limuru. The engineers should be looking at it and saying, so this project, what is the best way to roll out the project?
But this is the problem with our civil servants. They don't think like citizens. They should first think like citizens and ask, what does this mean for the Kenyan people? They shouldn't be thinking like technocrats and implementing things without thinking about what it means for us. What we Kenyans should have done was to oppose this road because it's another road that we don't need. What we needed was a tram system so that everybody can go to work in mass. But now building another road is just adding more cars and the jam will continue.
Yeah.
So we should have opposed the building of the road from the very beginning on the basis of it will not help us. It will give us more traffic jams. It will just add more cars to the road. So that it doesn't even have to reach the engineers and the bureaucrats who are just thinking of targets and promotions.
The conversation about mass transport system in the city has taken more than 15 years in those government circles. The whole issue of, do we need a mass rapid transport system, a bus rapid transport system, a rail transport system, a tram system? Do we need... all those conversations have happened. And if you go to the ministry, I'm sure the Ministry of Transport, you will find reports upon reports of task forces, of teams that have been set up to work on this. What do you think happens that it doesn't actually get to be actualized the way it has been planned?
I don't think they have. I don't believe they have planned. They tell us they have, but I really, really doubt. But more importantly, this is a political problem. I think Kenyans have to demand better from their leaders. They shouldn't accept when they are told my ministry is doing, my ministry has consulted, my ministry has taken loans. Those are not lines we should be accepting anymore. We get so impressed by figures and money. But what we should be being looking for is, how does this help all of us, up to the person at the bottom?
Sure.
Those are not the questions we ask. So I don't think those plans are there, and even if they're there, it's not coming from us. It's coming from textbooks and benchmarking trips. It's not things that are related to what is going on qua ground. They just don't care.
Dr. Njoa, I've often wondered whether we sometimes place too much responsibility on people who are actually incompetent and are actually unable to carry out the functions that we expect them to carry. What are your thoughts on this?
It's not a technical competence, it's a political incompetence.
Yes.
It's their inability to think of people and to care how people live their lives. That's where the problem is. It's being, and this is what I've complained about in the education system. The education system teaches us not to think about people. We think about projects, targets, development, what World Bank says, what IMF says, but achievements, I don't know, millennial goals. But if you ask Kenyans, what do the people need? What should they have? They struggle to answer that question because we are not trained to answer that question.
So if we're actually in touch with some of these needs, according to what you're saying, Dr. Njoa, if you are in touch with it, you understood that this is what people actually need in order to survive, the people that you're essentially governing, it would not be difficult for you to point at a solution. If you actually considered their needs and were coming from a position of actually caring about the livelihood of Kenyans, it would not be hard to come up with a solution.
Yes. You need to think about people before deciding what develop. And then you propose it to them. And then they tell you whether this will work or not. But we opposed this road from the very beginning. First of all, because of the construction, then it has reduced the green space, then it's putting more concrete when we need less of it. People even brought pictures of roads like the one we are building that have been demolished in other countries. So the Kenyan people spoke. We were ignored in the name of development. We need to stop accepting this development that harasses us. Because this is what the missionaries used to tell us. Vumilia colonialism because you will go to heaven. Development is not heaven. We want our heaven right now, as Bob Marley said. So development has to be progressive. It's not a goal where you suffer until you get
comes.
there. It has to be part of our lives now.
That's very true. Dr. Wandia Njoya, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Still on the phone lines, James in Nairobi has a rant. James, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, wise ones.
Good morning, James.
Where are you this morning, James?
Right now, I'm just approaching Bonyala Road. But last night, I took 5 hours from at the river turnoff to GM coming into town.
What?
Yes, 5 hours.
This is the interchange to Kitengela.
That whole part over there, interchange, right from the turnoff into Athi River town. For 5 hours. Now, one thing is, we may blame everything and everyone, but I think let us go back to the crux of the matter. The road and the diversion and the construction may be a factor in the traffic jam. But to myself, the biggest factor is us, the human being. There is no way you can create 7 lanes in a 2-lane highway and expect it to move smoothly. You have overlappers, people on the service lane, even those ones who are living in town could not move. The ones who are getting into town cannot move. So we're just there looking at each other and blocking each other. We create the funnel effect.
Okay,
Right?
but then, James,
you have a small outlet with a big intake. Now, if all we just took and stood on our 2 lanes, would have been out of there quicker than yesterday.
That's
so
very
we
true.
may say many things. We might say it was the rain. We might say it is a diversion. We might even blame the construction. We can even blame the planner, like the last caller had caught her towards the final end. But if we have some little courtesy and patience, we will all get home quicker.
What I wanted to ask you, because yes, I agree. When people become impatient, they overlap, they create all these lanes. Bad manners on the roads is also something else to talk about. But what makes people start overlapping?
Just lack of courtesy and impatience going nowhere. You are here overlapping, you create another lane. How many, we had to stop a number of times because of silly fender benders. People who are, my car is bigger than yours, or let me show you what I can do. Then you get in there, and then now you come out, all of you, and you start shouting at each other. Now we are not moving because of another idiotic person.
Yeah.
Right? If we just, and I have traveled in roads and I have lived in countries where we have had major construction. This is child's play. But you never get stuck for 5 hours. Because if it is 2 lanes, the 2 lanes will move. And when the 2 lanes are moving, it doesn't matter how long, it doesn't matter what the bottleneck is, you will move. Right now, I'm here at Bunyala Road. It's supposed to be 2 lanes. There are 4 lanes. The 5th one is being created. How are we going to get out of this?
Paul, you're stuck there for a while. How long have you been on the road this morning?
Sometimes I really don't. It presses me to know. I get to the office when I get to the office these days. That is my motto. You get there and you get there. But if we just stop overlapping, if we just stop all these things, just because a matatu who does not own the car, who does not pay any maintenance, decides to go off road, then you find 16 other Neanderthals following him. They get stuck over there. Then now we are all left with each other. This just has to stop. We are the cause of our own misery.
Thank you, James. Paul sana vumilia.
Tumeng'ang'ana tu.
Thank you. Also comments on social media.
Quite some. Okay. Quetch says it's become a norm for the 7:15 a.m. train, for example, to be late for as much as 40 minutes and you get no apologies. You get to town and you find that the tunnel that you're coming out of is actually flooded. Eric Baraza says the obsession of government agencies to privatize taxpayer-constructed roads instead of opening them up as alternatives to improve flow of traffic is appalling. Shirage says as soon as we finish the expressway, we will start to rebuild Mombasa Road, so be prepared for more traffic after that. Koech goes on to say that, true, if they really cared about the common man, they would be constructing a rail line to offer mass transport, not an expressway to the airport. Mass transport systems is part of the solution. No amount of expanded road networks without a metro will solve Nairobi's traffic jams. But politicians don't want such solutions for us. The hidden consequences of endless hours on roads will emerge soon.
Runs and more runs because people have spent many hours on the road and not just today. People spending hours on the road going home. You get home, you eat, you sleep. Within 1 hour, your alarm is off because you got to get up again and get to work. Get to work at 11, leave at 3. You have issues with your employer. All those things are building up, and this is what we're seeing. And this because of the construction that's going on. Construction is okay, but the planning around the construction, that is where the issues arise, and that's where the questions now come up. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we'll have our guest in the studio, and she's here, so we'll just go ahead and introduce her. The Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, Farida Karone, is in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you. Welcome to the Situation Room. Welcome. So we usually have this seat, and it's a special seat for our guests. We call it the hot seat. We're just warming it up a little bit for you. And as it goes on, then you'll make it a little bit more comfortable. So we are going to have a conversation about the entire lands ministry and the reforms in the land ministry and the land sector. Recently, you rolled out the ARTHISASA, the National Lands Information Management System. There have been reviews in the legal infrastructure, the law reforms that have taken place in the land sector. People want to understand what that is all about. People have been asking questions. We asked them to send in their questions. Some of them will be in relation to ARTHISASA. Others will be in relation to other things. For example, Martin Arab Kotichai says, I need help concerning land records at Bungoma. And you can give them, the response of where to go with such kind of concerns. But we'll start off with ARTHISASA. You've been in the ministry for a while now. You got in and you got your hands, right into the mix. How has it been the last, how many years is it now?
3 years.
3 years in the ministry.
Yeah.
How has it been so far?
Well, when we got in there 3 years ago, we first had to assess what is the scope of the problem. What is the issue really? Why did we need the reforms in the first place? So it took us a bit of time to unpack the issues, what we really needed to focus on. Then we aligned that with the president's priorities. As you know, as a CS, you don't really have your own priorities. You execute the priorities of the president. So the president's foremost priority was national titling. As you know, Eric, about 70% of Kenya is not titled. So the titles we have cover just about 30% of the landmass. And the president wanted to scale that up. In fact, in our strategic plan of 2020 to 2024, the priority number one is titling, and we want to cover most of the country by that 2024. And we will do that by focusing on the implementation of the Community Lands Act. That 70% is really community lands. So when we focused on that, and then we said, we are titling, yes, but these records are really not secure because of the manual nature of our operations, because of the theft of records, because of the fraud in the sector. So what is it we need to do to secure the gains that we are making in titling? And obviously, digitalization became the next priority program, and that is why we started working on the ARTHISASA program. So currently, we have two key programs, national titling and the digitalization program. The other programs are really support programs, the legal reform, the policy reform, institutional reform, is really to anchor these two key pillars. Because if you are going to digitalize, then you need the legal framework to support the work that you do in that regard.
Yep.
You need to reform the institution of the Ministry of Lands itself. As you know, Ministry of Lands, many Kenyans don't have very good experiences with us, and we really needed to reform that and change the way we do business. So that became another priority. The other priority became decentralization. Because in Nairobi, for instance, we have a registry called the Central Registry. This registry has records from all over the country. It was used in the colonial framework to manage the prime lands where the colonial settlers were settling. But sadly, 60 years later, that registry is still there.
It's still the one
and
that
we needed
using.
to close it and take the records back to their home counties. So really, that was it.
We'll have this conversation coming up in the next hour, and we'll invite your calls, any questions that you have to the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Farida Karone. She's in the studio with us this morning. The whole issue of the reforms in the Lands Ministry, the digitization, as she says, and also the titling. These are very big issues. Land is a very emotional issue when it comes to Kenyans. Well, keep it right here. That's the conversation that's going to be happening in the next hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation at the Situation Room, 8 o'clock. Time for the news. Good morning.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Senate yesterday passed the proposed constitutional amendment bills through the BBI bill without amendments. 51 senators voted for the bill, while 12 senators voted against it.
Honorable Senators, the ayes 51, the nays 12, abstention 1. The ayes have it.
Meanwhile, some legislators tried objecting the bill, arguing that it will be expensive for the taxpayers in an already expensive government.
There is a parliamentary report that denotes that Kenya will suffer 20 billion extra shillings per annum once BBI passes. That includes to support the so-called double-decker parliament.
That if at all the constitution is going to be amended, they should be ready for high taxation under double-decker parliament and many other, since the economy is in ICU.
The vote comes less than a week after the National Assembly voted in favor of the BBI, with proponents forecasting a referendum in July or August. MPs Moses Kuria and Ndindi Nyoro and Mohamed Ali have been summoned to appear before the House tomorrow. According to Speaker Justin Muturi, the three were summoned for dishonouring the House by claiming that members of the Assembly were bribed to vote for the BBI. The directive was issued yesterday during a session in which National Assembly Minority Leader John Mbadi asked that Gatundu South's legislator be suspended. Meanwhile, the High Court is set to make a ruling on 7 petitions that have challenged the proposed constitutional amendments. The decision on whether Kenya will hold a referendum in July or August as per the proposals by BBI proponents now lies in the hands of 5 judges. In March, 8 cases challenging the looming BBI referendum were heard by a 5-judge bench who consolidated them into one. Nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura has lost his seat after a lengthy battle with the Jubilee Party. Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka declared the seat previously occupied by Mwaura vacant in a Gazette notice issued on Monday. In late March, the High Court in Nairobi temporarily stopped Mwaura's expulsion after he moved to court to challenge the ouster, which was pegged on grounds of disciplinary violations. However, today he has received reprieve after a court suspended all the allegations and all the orders given by Kenneth Lusaka. Kenya's COVID-19 positivity rate was at 8% yesterday, with 356 new infections tested from 4,424 samples. The new infections bring the total number of confirmed cases to 163,976. 21 deaths were also reported, bringing the total number of fatalities to 2,928. The High Court has overturned the nomination of Dorothy Jamator as LSK representative to the selection panel of the IEBC. Justice George Odunga ordered National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi to instead receive the nomination of Maurice Kimoli. The Parliamentary Service Commission is listed as the first respondent, while Jamator is the second interested party. The Kenya National Highways Authority has warned motorists that the Bondo Usenge Osieko Road has been cut off. A statement from the authority said the Goye Bridge was destroyed following heavy rains in the region. The authority said trucks should avoid using the crossing for now as officers evaluate mechanisms of undertaking repair works on the structure. A Nairobi court has found 2 police constables guilty of manslaughter in the killing of a businesswoman in City Park 2 years ago. Janet Wayaki's death has now been blamed on police constables William Chirchir and Godfrey Kirui. High Court Judge Stella Mutuku ruled that the officers' use of force was not proportional to the threat. That's Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Okay, still looking quite crazy on Mombasa Road this morning, trying to get into the city. Yes, it is a spectator spot today as early as 4 o'clock, and it still continues, guys. So JKIA to the Southern Bypass, and we're still looking at that as an option. The Southern Bypass, not too much of an issue. A longer route into the city, but you can use that. Mombasa Road in both directions, jam-packed, guys, at least until General Motors. And then from the turn-off at South Sea, we're dealing with all sorts of problems. Traffic, water, everything. Coming off Mombasa Road, Kiambu Road is also jam-packed. Rock City through to Muthaiga Square, Pangani Underpass, out towards Ngara. That is not good. I'll give you an alternative, though. Wangari Maathai into the city also looks like something that can be used. Limuru Road is a no-go zone. So such is the situation also on Jogo Road into the city connecting with Landis. So this is that morning that you all dreaded. It's happening now. And guess what? It has just started raining again. So guys, patience with a little less rage is going to get us through this morning. Let's keep in touch. Find an alternate route beyond what we've suggested. Do let us know and we'll share. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Okay,
The
6
only
minutes after
way to
8,
start
Kenya's
your
biggest
day.
conversation. It continues right here. SpiceFM. We are now live on KTN Home as well for the next 1 hour. Welcome to our audience on KTN Home. This is your radio experience on TV. We begin the hour like we do every hour with the day's proverb. CT Muga.
Right. When the mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her.
When the mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her.
Mm-hmm. You can call it foraging for food.
Life lessons.
You can call it what you like, but the kid watches.
Kid is right there watching.
Yes.
Okay.
Because kids tend to accompany their mothers. So everything the mother does, they see.
Our guest CS for lands. When you hear that, what immediately comes to mind? Is it about the mother, is it about the kid, or is it about the owner of the store?
Oh, no, is it about the yams?
Oh, the yams.
I think it's more about what you teach your children. If you steal, they will steal. If you do things incorrectly, they will do incorrectly. If you teach them values, they will follow the values.
Nice.
That's my interpretation.
Out of 10? 10.
Of course.
10 out of 10. This is an A.
Yes. No,
Okay.
A star.
Oh, A star.
Apt, now that we're talking about exams and such. I think.
Okay. Back to the conversation on lands and what you've been doing for the last 3 years at the Lands Ministry. You've told us digitization was a big project. Titling was a big project. We saw President going around the country issuing titles in various counties, including Nairobi itself. And then there's the titling, there's the digitization and the rolling out of Ardhi Sasa. Now, that's where the whole confusion comes in. Please explain to us a bit slowly about the digitization, what it means. Before you officially unveiled Ardhi Sasa, you had published some notice in the newspapers about the change of land titling in Nairobi County. Please explain all those things to us.
Okay. So, Eric, the core mandate of the Ministry of Land is to manage and administer land. It is not possible to do that efficiently and effectively if you cannot account for your records. So, the problem of the Ministry of Lands is lack of accountability and transparency in the management of land records. And this is a problem that has built over almost 60 years from independence to date. We have officers of government, we have cartels, brokers, landowners, and all manner of people colluding, so to speak, to disappear records, to manipulate records, and to make our records inaccurate or inconsistent. So digitalization then became a key priority to that extent, because we needed to be sure that these titles that we are issuing, and I will speak about that a little later, were secure. Because there's no use having a title, Eric, if tomorrow you don't know whether you'll own it or not.
Yep.
So it was very important to create a framework to allow us to manage these records more transparently. So to that extent, then digitization was really, really key. And we started in Nairobi deliberately, because any complexity you're likely to experience in the management of land, you will experience in Nairobi. Any fraud, any theft, understandably, because this is our capital and this is where the core economic activities happen. So we needed to start in Nairobi in order to understand the extent of the problem, the gaps in our data, and the things that we needed to do in order to fix it. So Nairobi has taken us very long. We started in February of 2018, and it took us long for two reasons. First, we took a lot of time to understand the data sets in the ministry, to understand what they meant, what we needed in order to guarantee security of title to land, and then we needed to build the platform to solve that problem. So to an extent, Nairobi was a test case. We were testing to see how successful can this program be. So it took us about 1.5 years to just build the platform, because we were building the platform to address our unique problems as a country. The problems of land in Kenya, I think, are unique to Kenya. When you talk about land, Kenyans just become wild. So we needed to create a solution to manage this energy that Kenyans have around land. So we created a multi-agency team. And my multi-agency, I mean, we had officials from the Ministry of Lands, we had officers from the Ministry of Interior, We had cybersecurity experts, ICT experts, all manner of professionals. But all of them were Kenyan, young Kenyans. So they built a solution to solve the specific problem that we had. So that was a separate process. The other process was really taking the files apart, encoding each and every single sheet of paper. There were about 30 million in Nairobi. We needed to do that for two reasons.
30 million what? 30 million
single sheets of paper.
Right.
You see, you want to manage your records and you want to create a platform that allows you to manage the records intelligently. So you needed to code each sheet of paper.
Yep.
Then you needed to do data entry.
So this is actually a manual process.
To get to the digital, yes, you have to start manually because you take a
Piece
part
of
file, piece of paper,
scan it.
First of all, code it.
Code it, yes.
So that nobody introduces a new record once you've coded it. Once you've coded, you scan. Once you scan, you do data entry because we wanted to build an intelligent platform. For instance, if I wanted to know how many leases in Nairobi will expire today, with this platform I will know. Because the data entry we are doing gives you the term of the lease, it gives you how many years yet to expire, who is the owner, what is the use of that title, what is the land use, those kinds of things. So to do that, you need to do data entry because you need to enter so that the computer can manipulate this data. So that is why it took so long. The other thing that we've really struggled with and we are still struggling with is the completeness of our data sets. It means we don't have all the records that we should have. Why is this? Some are lost, stolen or just lost. Others, the files are too old. Like the survey records, for instance. You have a file which is 100 years old. You can't even read what is in it. So you lose records in that manner. So really that was what we were struggling with and we are still struggling with. At the moment, we've put data on the platform, but not all of it is there because of the reasons that I'm explaining. We are looking for three things in the data sets. We are looking for accuracy. We wanted to know with certainty who owns that land. We are looking for completeness. Are your data sets complete? And we are looking for integrity because there are many suspect title deeds in our framework and we needed to get rid of them.
And if we talk about all those things, then Nairobi also would lead in terms of the number of fraudulent title deeds that are out there, the number of double claim of a piece of land. How did you address that as you were going through the process of digitization?
So, Eric, titling or documenting rights to land is a process. Usually you start by planning for the land and then you survey. And then you create correspondences around the land parcel. And then you register the right by recording a title. So how we're establishing the true ownership is combining these data sets, making sure that your physical planning document, your survey plan, your land administration data, and your registration document tally. If they didn't tally, we didn't put that record on the platform. And there are many such records. Because in the past, because of fraud, you would come and steal the admin file, for instance. But I still have the survey file or I have the registration file. So for me to put that data set on the platform, I need all these data sets. If one of them is missing, I'll not put it on. And what are we going to do? We are going to work with the landowners and tell them we want to work with you to build this data set so that we complete them. And that's a process we've just started. And you will begin to see, Eric, customers complaining that we cannot find our records on the platform. That will be the reason why it will not be there.
In terms of resolving that specifically now, because with this new era now, people are asking this question already. I've checked, I can't find myself there. How then do you resolve that if there's an issue? Again, 2 people having one title, 3 people having one title, which has been an issue before. And now we've started this process. How will that particular be resolved? Or have we not gotten to that just yet?
We've started the process now. So if we have 3 titles to a single parcel of land, we don't put it on the platform. We put it aside. Then we'll have a separate process where we interrogate who is the true owner of this parcel. Because if our analysis of the 4 data sets did not establish ownership, it cannot be on the platform. In some cases, we've been able to establish, even though there are 3 titles, for instance, the legitimate owner is person X. So that data will be on the platform. If the other 2 owners come, we will take them through the process we've gone through and make them understand that their process of acquisition of title was either illegal or irregular. Then in terms of the other sets that will not be there, there are units called sectional properties. Sectional properties are basically apartments or maisonettes or subdivisions of buildings into units. There's a new law, the Sectional Properties Act of 2020, which is aimed at registration of rights to sectional units. In the past, we've used another law called the Registration of Documents Act. Now, that particular law should not have been used because it is not the law that recognizes rights on land. It is, as it says, registration of documents. An apartment is not a document. It's a property.
Yes.
But erroneously, government used that law to register things we are calling long-term leases. And we are saying because we have a new framework, we want to use the new framework to bring these properties on board. This particular platform is built to recognize geospatial data. Geospatial data is data in relation to space. And that was deliberate because there were people who had titles, but they didn't have land. You have a title. It's uko na hewa, literally, like it's airborne.
Yeah.
So for us to resolve that problem, we needed to be sure that every title deed that you hold is pinned to a location on the ground. Even if it's an apartment sits on land. So your apartment would be apartment number A5, but it sits on parcel X. So we needed to combine these data sets. But because we used a law that didn't recognize geospatial data, then these apartments will not be there. But we are telling our customers, don't worry. There are about 100,000 units in Nairobi. Don't worry. Government at its own cost will regularize. What does that mean? We will go and create the geospatial data. We'll come to your apartment, create a sectional plan, and then at our own cost, now we begin to bring these data sets on board. So that's another reason your data will not be there, because it's an apartment registered using the wrong law. We will bring it on board over time. The law gives us 2 years. We've just started, so it will take another 1 to 2 years for all these apartments to be on the platform. The other reason your parcel will not be there, if you undo and you're holding a title to a public asset. Let's say you have land in Karura Forest or somewhere near Wilson Airport, it will not be there because what we have done with this exercise is to document all public lands and created a separate cadastre of public lands. And then we have locked them. They're not available for transaction. In the past, by fraud, by omission or commission, there are Kenyans who own title deeds to public property. Those Kenyans will not find their properties here.
Farida, I love the way you're explaining this. I've been a critic of this process loudly for the longest time. I've been a naysayer, and the evangelization is working well.
So far?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm about to have a road to Damascus experience. But let me ask
when
this.
she makes the altar call at the end of the show.
I will run.
Good.
Forget walking or sauntering. I will actually sprint towards the altar.
To the altar, yes.
Now, when you say public land, how far back are we going into history with reference to public land? And what considerations are we going to take into account when we put aside, as you put it, matters pertaining to what we call public land? I ask this question because there is a lot of public land that was public, whether it was a forest, whether it was something. But over time, legal processes were followed and the use that land was put to was changed legally. That is why I'm asking.
Yeah. All right, Sid, it is true. Most lands or most titles were actually created out of public land.
Yes.
But there's a due process to be followed when you're alienating public land to allocate to private citizens. So the ones we are setting aside are those that have not followed due process because there are people who just took shortcuts.
Yes.
For instance, if, let's say the president in 1985, for instance, set aside a forest, there was a due process to be followed. You go to parliament, you degazette the forest, so that it's no longer forest land, and then you allocate to the public. In some cases, however, like in the case of Karura on record is a public forest. But in our registry, there's some title deeds on top of Karura Forest. Those are irregular because the due process has not been followed. Those are the ones we shall set aside and say, okay, you have a title, yes, issued by government nonetheless. How did you get it? Was due process followed? Whose problem is it? And then we have now, the president allowed us to create a separate framework to deal with such issues. Because you see, you cannot correct a wrong by creating another mess. So you need to follow due process. If we are to restore these lands to the public, we have to follow due process. We can't wake up and say, Eric, you have a title to some place. Bring it. No, we will follow due process.
And this will also apply to, say, beach plots, because this has been a thorny discussion for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So long as it was government land, wherever it is, it will follow the same process. That's what you're saying.
You see, there are many government lands which were legally allocated to private citizens. Those ones have no issue at all because they have followed due process. But there are public lands where Kenyan private citizens took shortcuts, colluding with officers of government, and took over public assets irregularly.
Yep.
Those are the ones we are saying we shall have to interrogate the process of acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if you have a title to a riparian reserve is public land. It's meant for the enjoyment of public good,
Yep.
environmental protection.
Yep.
You have a title, you put up an apartment. We'll ask, how did you get it?
Mm.
What is the restitution? How can we go about it? And that is a long legal process that we'll have to follow.
Mm.
It's not going to happen now. The only thing that we are doing, we are saying, if you have a title on Uhuru Park, for instance, Uhuru Park is a public park.
Mm.
We will not let you enjoy the benefits of having a title to a public park. However, we will follow due process. We will set aside a team. They will interrogate, how did you get it? Should you have it? Should you not? If not, then what is the recourse?
Mm.
So we'll follow a whole process, a whole legal process of restitution and restoration.
We were discussing this the other day, the whole issue of reclamation of public lands. And even the concerns that were coming out from our audience were, many times you'll find that the people who are involved, the original perpetrator of grabbing of that public land had some political connection, or they still enjoy some political patronage. Now, how are you going to deal with that? Because that becomes a hot potato. Some of them will have brought in squatters to occupy some sections of the land, and then they occupy the other piece of the land where they own, and they have gone ahead and acquired some title deed and then sold off. So how will you deal with this politically? Because some of them, it's legal, but then there's the political angle to it.
You know, Eric, this mess we've created over 60 years. We are not going to correct it in 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. It will take another 30 years maybe to correct. But we are saying we've made such a fine mess. Let's draw the line. Some mistakes we will forgive, because some mistakes are difficult to undo. But some mistakes which are fairly straightforward, we will try to correct. And we are saying it is not the Ministry of Lands, or it is not Farida, it is we, the Kenyan people. How do we want to manage our lands going forward? We've created this platform which allows us to look transparently at the things that we are doing and what we have done in the past. So let's come together as a country. And that's why we said we are creating a framework to help us understand and to move forward. It's not going to be as easy as I'm talking about. It's not going to be easy, Eric. I mean, this is a mess that a fine mess created over 6 decades. So we need to work together slowly but surely, and we will get there.
And I mean, others have called and Farida and said, you know what, it really requires the person who sits at the helm. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on your office right now. And to say that it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter who it was, that the process will be followed to either one, recover what has been stolen or grabbed, and then to allocate what is rightfully owned by somebody else. And it's going to require serious will on the part of your office to do that. And is that the case from where you sit?
Thank you. Do you see the thing with the reforms in the Ministry of Lands? We have the highest level of political commitment possible. Because as I told you, I am executing the president's program. It is the president who wants order in this sector. So I'm just his to execute. Because he has said we want to restore order. And we had reached a spot in our history where we are saying this madness cannot continue. We have to draw the line, we have to stop, we have to step back and reflect. So yes, there's a lot of pressure, not just on my office, but in the government generally. Because you're saying let's correct mistakes that are piled up over time. Maybe there are investments in these parcels of land. Maybe there are powerful individuals, that is true. But we are saying, are we going to say we are afraid so we are not going to correct the mess? Or are we going to say let us step forward, let us work together as a country, as citizens of our country, and correct the mistakes that we have made? I think the obvious answer is let us work together and correct these mistakes. Nobody is promising that it will be a walk in the park. It's not going to be. It's difficult to do it. I mean, it's been difficult just to do Nairobi. But if you have the commitment, which we do, and the political cover to do it, I think it is doable, and we have proven that we are actually doing it.
When CT raises the issues, and he says he's been one of the people who have been asking very many questions, and we tell him, you need to get into the digital age. But he raises serious concerns. One of those concerns is it's human beings in the Ministry of Lands and elsewhere who have perpetrated this, what we have as a mess over the last 60 years. It's human beings who will be oversighting this new system that has been developed by human beings. What kind of safeguards do we have that this system that we are creating will not be tampered with, interfered with, going into the future?
So the system we've built, Eric, as I told you, we had a multi-agency team. We had cybersecurity experts on it. We had security people on it. We had Ministry of Lands. We had ICT. Why did we decide to take a multi-agency approach? Because we knew that the cartels and the fraudsters on the manual space will simply just migrate to the digital space. So we needed to secure the platform upfront and to be sure that we are building a platform that is difficult to penetrate. And Eric, I tell you, this is week 3 since we launched it. If it wasn't secure by now, it would have been hacked. And there are people attempting to hack. But the security protocols we built into the system are such that you will try, yes, but it is unlikely that you will succeed. Because we have many things, intelligent firewalls, we have data encryption, we have access protocols, OTPs. We have so many security frameworks that you ought to follow as a user that by the time you're trying to get onto the platform, already we have mapped you anyway. Because one of the things we have done is a very rigorous identity mapping by integrating with government data sets to do with people data. So that when you log on, Eric, and key in the serial number of your identity card, automatically we pull all your data sets from other data sets of government and we can map you. We can say, this is Eric. He's attempting to reach the platform from Mombasa Road at this time, and this is what he's doing on the platform, because you leave an audit trail. So it is easy for us to then assess the threats and the vulnerabilities on the system and intervene before it becomes a big problem. So CT should not be afraid that while he's sleeping, we can transfer his parcel to somebody else. That won't happen.
Actually, I will take your word, because I'm actually looking at you and I'm talking to you and saying I shouldn't be afraid. But unfortunately, my fears cannot be allayed by just what you say.
That's true.
For this simple reason. You will have a system that is exactly as you put it.
Exactly.
And it will be purposed to do exactly what you say. But it is not the system that I have a problem with. It is the culture that we have developed in those years that you say that has held the entire citizenry of this country captive. So that, forget the fraudsters that we talk about and the cartels. We ourselves are cartels. We ourselves look for shortcuts. Those people wouldn't thrive if they didn't have people like us to feed off.
An environment.
Yes. So, because it is a problem that is that great, look, we had a multi-agency task force in the Ministry of Health to deal with COVID. They gave sound advice. We know individuals who are part of it, who know exactly what they're doing. But it doesn't stop the KEMSA saga from being the KEMSA saga. Neither does it stop all these what we call COVID billionaires from being COVID billionaires. It is from that background that I look at the lands issue, which is infinitely more emotive than even the issue of COVID, that made me raise the issues I was raising. I was saying, okay, I get it. So let me ask the question. Yes, you are ensuring that you carry out a mandate given to you by the head of state. Let me ask the question. What leeway do you actually have? What powers do you actually have to actually carry out this mandate in reality?
So, CT, this is what it is. First of all, my role as minister is in executive order given by the president on what I should do as Ministry of Lands. Yes. The president has said I want to do 3 things. I want to digitalize, I want to register rights to land in Kenya, and I want you to create the legal framework to do that. That is what he does at the overarching level. He doesn't come and tell you, now change this law, change this one, digitalize this way. No. As a president, he's interested in digitalization. It is your business to figure out how it will be done. As a president, he wants the lands in Kenya to be documented. It is your business to figure out how to do it. So to answer your question, CT, I have the latitude to do the job I was hired to do. Because I have the mandate of the president to do it. I don't need any other mandate to do it. My mandate is with the president, with the constitution, with the laws that govern our sector, and to the platform. Based on the concerns that you have, which are the concerns of many Kenyans, we built a system to address those concerns. So what did we do? This system does not allow you to operate outside the law, because we put together all the laws that govern land management and the Constitution of Kenya. So anything you do on that system will be governed first by the Constitution. Secondly, by all the laws that document rights to land in our sector. If you try to operate outside that framework, it will not allow you. And that is why, CT, we cannot have sectional properties on this platform, because they were registered using a law that is not recognized as a law for documenting rights to land. That's why they will not be there. They will be brought on board once we regularize, and as I told you, we are doing it at the cost of government, to bring it on board the Sectional Properties Act, which is a framework recognized by the platform. So if you try to do things outside this framework, it will not allow you. And we did that based on those concerns that you have raised. Knowing that we are human beings, we can be tempted.
Yeah.
And it is easy to be tempted in our sector.
And it has worked before.
Before you even make the altar call. I'm actually readying myself to sprint.
Yes.
But
City.
I hold the thought?
Yes, please.
I'm going to hold
so
the
we
thought.
take a break at 8:30. We have in the studio with us the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, Farida Karone, answering questions about the digitization of our land records. Arthisasa.go.ke.
Yes, please.
Right? Yes. Arthisasa.go.ke. What questions do you have for the CS? 0719-012-600. We'll be picking your calls. And also you can post your questions on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. We'll be taking them shortly. We are live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and online. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
For many of us, home is a place where we find our inner peace. A place where we find the most comfort. A place where we recharge. A place where we create laughter and all the good memories. But most importantly, a place where we all belong. At KTN Home, we believe there is something for everyone. So catch all the comedy, telenovelas, Nollywood, music, sporting action, kids shows, documentaries, movies, dramas, and reality shows, all to make you and your family feel right at home. You can also stream live at www.standardmedia.co.ke/KTN Home/live on your favorite device. KTN, welcome home.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog.
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na
Nini umba special.
This, the weather with Spice FM.
All right, so still raining in Nairobi at 17. It'll come down to lows of 16 today, highs of 21. Cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 15. 22 will be the high in Nakuru where it's raining. Mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret, highs of 20 today and lows of 13. 18 will be the low in Kisumu. It's raining at 20. It's also mostly cloudy in Kakamega at 20, highs of 24, lows of 15. 26 is going to be the low in Mombasa today. 27 at the moment, going to highs of 31. 30 will be the high in Malindi. It's raining now at 27. Rain showers continue in Kampala, highs of 23 and lows of 18. We're looking at mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24, coming down to lows of 23 only. And Johannesburg skies are sunny today, highs of 23 and lows of 9. 32 will be the high where it's mostly clear in Lagos at 26. And it's sunny in Kinshasa at 23, highs of 33. Come back down to lows of 24.
Are
you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
All right, so folks who left Malonga at 6:30, it's now 8:30, and guess where they are? At the railway station at Syokimau. Not happening, guys. It's not moving at all today. It's really very bad. Traffic also is inbound now, Mombasa Road at the Way Bridge. So in both directions, it's absolutely crazy. Outer Ring, immediately after where Taj Mahal was, quite some traffic there leading towards Outer Ring. There's a gridlock there heading now towards Taj Mahal, heading out then as you're trying to go towards the city. And it's raining. So it's not looking really pretty today, guys. This one, it just needs some time and a dash of patience as well. The Southern Bypass, however, as you are on Mombasa Road, use that exit. You can get to the city a lot quicker if you do that. And it looks like everybody's going to use that option today. Jogo Road also jam-packed. Coming out of Westlands, in and outbound towards the city is full as well. So it's going to be a long morning, but let's sit tight. Hang on and let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch. Text on 40127. Let's see how we can keep things moving in whatever way we can this morning while keeping safe.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
23 minutes to 9 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues in the Situation Room this and every weekday morning. You have CT Muga Nduoko Eric Latif. Joining us this morning is the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, Farida Karone. After the launch of the Earth is Asa platform, she has come out to explain it to the people so we can all understand what is this whole digitization process, what it's all about, who benefits from it, who does not benefit from it, and how then do we use it. There was also the other issue of the Sectional Properties Act, which you have also issued a notice which was saying that until the 10th, 2 days ago, people who had sectional properties needed to do something. Please just explain what the Sectional Properties Act is all about, and then I'll bring in the questions that have come in on social media.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. So before 2020, sectional properties were registered under the Registration of Documents Act, as I said earlier. These are long-term leases. This Registration of Documents Act, what it does, it uses building plans to register the sectional units. And we are saying, as a building plan is created for the purposes of building, not for the purposes of documenting rights to land. And that is why we brought on board the Sectional Properties Act of 2020 to help you secure your rights to that apartment, because this Sectional Properties Act gives effect to Section 54(5) of the Land Registration Act, which, as you know, is a primary law for documenting rights to land in Kenya. So we gave the notice effective 10th of May, and we are saying prior to 10th of May, you're using the long-term leases. But going forward, our platform will not accept registration of units if they don't follow the law, because we are saying RDA is not the correct legal framework for documenting rights to sectional units. The correct framework is the Sectional Properties Act. Okay. So before May 10th, it's okay. And as I said, we will regularize. What do I mean by regularize? The ones that have been registered prior to 10th of May, the government will spend resources to help our customers to bring them on board the Sectional Properties Act. The law itself has given us 2 years to do that. But we are saying, if you have a new development, please follow the law. And the correct law is the Sectional Properties Act of 2020. That's really all it's about. Eric.
Okay, so the question then, one of the questions that comes in is that the notice includes villas as part of the units to which mandatory conversion applies, yet villas are not units within the provisions of Sectional Properties Act. How do you deal with those standalone units in a master planned community? Let's say it's a gated community with one mother title. Yeah. People have bought units there. Do they also apply in this Sectional Properties Act?
Yes, they do, Eric, because sectional units are basically just a subdivision of buildings into units which you can recognize individually. If, for instance, you have 1 acre and you put on that acre 8 units, those are sectional units because they are all sitting on one primary, one primary title. So what we need to do is to document your right, and we have said under the Sectional Properties Act, it will give you your proportionate share of the common area in that 1 acre. So your title to your sectional unit will have the proportionate share of the common spaces, the parking lot, the road, the spaces in between. So yes, that is a sectional unit to that extent. And it will have to be registered using the Sectional Properties Act.
Another question, and this also applies to me actually, I'll add a bit of my own experience into this question, is where a developer puts up units on a mother title, and the idea is once they finish building the units, then there's going to be a reversionary interest that goes to a management company where the people who have bought the units have shareholding in the management company. Does this law apply? And to what extent does it apply in terms of the management company now having one mother title and you having sectional shares into this?
You see, the Sectional Properties Act of 2020, Eric, was aimed at curing some mischievous actions by developers in the past. In the case that you have mentioned, the reversionary interest would go with the management company, which have been created by the developer, which means he still owned a stake in that management company. So to that extent, you as a unit owner, you really don't have full rights over your land because reversionary interest is really at the expiry of the lease. Who has the first right to renew? It should be you, the unit owner. But in the old framework, the developer still contained or retained some rights. In this new legal framework, this is what we do. When you're creating sectional units or apartments, you develop a sectional plan. Sectional plan is basically the plan that creates the different units, which floor, which unit is it, how many units are in that piece of land. Once you bring that sectional plan for registration in the ministry, the next course of action for the ministry to do is to close the mother title, which means the original title will cease to be an operational title. Then the rights will go now to the individual unit owners. So once you close the mother title, then you start to register the individual units. And you register each unit as if you're registering land under Section 54(5) of the Land Registration Act and the Sectional Properties Act. So to that extent, immediately I close the mother title, your rights are secured because you will register your own rights to your units in addition to the proportionate share of the common spaces. The other thing that the Sectional Properties Act does is to apportion rent. You see, in the current framework, we are in an apartment block. The rent is paid as a block. So if I want to transact in my apartment and city hasn't paid, I'll not be able to. But in this current legal framework, it apportions rent. So if I want to deal in my apartment, I pay my rent and I do my business. I don't have to be at the mercy of the developer or other property owners in the plan. The other thing it does, that this law, it creates what we call a corporation. A corporation replaces the management company. And the members of that corporation are the unit owners. So you own jointly this corporation to enable you to manage the common spaces. Because in the previous framework, the developer could claim, I own that parking lot, and you wake up one morning and there's a kiosk. But in this new legal framework, all the unit owners have to approve the use to which you put the common spaces.
It's like a circle.
Yes, to help you manage your common areas and common spaces, and also ensure that people are giving right of way access to power lines, sewer lines, all those kinds of things. So to that extent, Eric, this is a very good law, especially for property owners, because it secures your rights as a unit owner.
Fareed, another area one of the other areas that you talked about was national titling.
Yeah.
And I think once you mentioned that and the digitization of everything, people's hearts were thumping in one area and on the side of people who had access to a particular part of land historically and didn't have a document for it. And then those who are taking advantage of these folks who don't have documents for their land. And one of the major issues being, okay, so we don't have a document. Now all of this is going to be digitized. Where do we fall? And then where you have local land tribunals, the chiefs and such who would sort out some of these disputes ordinarily, how will all of this now start to take shape? For those who don't have a document, for those who are taking advantage of others, how do all of these come into now this national titling and now saying we're going to regularize everything?
For those who don't have a title document, but I have something called an allotment letter. An allotment letter is basically public land has been alienated, you've been given the rights to that land. So we consider an allotment letter to legally bestow that right to you. So all we will do is we will process to conclusion. We will move you to the title stage. But if you have an allotment letter in your name properly issued by government, there's no cause for alarm. At any stage of the registration, whether you're doing physical planning, survey, All these processes are captured in our system, and we will pick the customer at the point at which their process has reached. So if you had reached survey, that's where we pick you and we continue with the process until we give you a title document. If you had reached the letter of allotment stage, we process, you pay, and then we document that right. So there's no cause for alarm, because it doesn't mean we're only putting on the platform people with title deeds. There are different sets of documents which still confer ownership to some extent, and we'll put them on the platform and then help you to process to the end. And it will be easier for government, because now we know there are X number of Kenyans with letters of allotment, or X number at the survey plan stage. So those ones, we bring them on board and help them to conclude the process. Remember, one of the concerns of our customers is that it was taking too long, sometimes up to 10 years, for somebody to get a simple document, a title deed. This is because we wouldn't know where is your allotment letter, where is your other documents. But now, when you key in, and one of the things you should do by then when you come on the platform, you register on the platform, and there's a place called My Property section. You list your properties so that we help you document them properly. So to that extent, you have no reason to worry. In terms of whether if I don't already have, let's say community lands, for instance, they are not yet registered. But we know this land belongs to community X. So when we come to the documentation process, what we will upload on the platform is the survey data of that place. Because the survey data is our base data, because we are saying for you to own a right to land, start with the basics. First of all, demonstrate that you have land. Whether or not you have a title is a separate issue, and we can help you to get the title. But the first thing you must demonstrate is that I have land. It is here. It is not yet registered. We put it on the platform, and we can help you through the process. So to that extent, I don't think our customers should be afraid. Whether you have a title or not, at the process, at the stage at which you are, we will pick you up from there and move it forward.
So there's a question that I want to reflect that one of our very good listeners called themselves Nick1 on Twitter, likes asking questions in a roundabout way. Just scroll up to the top again, Ndu. So Nick says, kindly request CS Farida Karunei to explain to us in detail how exactly the ARTHIS system, ARTHIS system works. Stop wasting time on abstract questions. That's an abstract question, Nick. So
someone asked us an abstract question so that we can stop asking abstract questions. Okay.
So, explain then, Madam CS, as an ordinary mwananchi wa kawaida, how do I get onto the system? What services do I get on the system? What services do I require professional to assist on this system?
Okay, so when you log on to the platform, it's arthisasa.lands.go.ke. When you log on, the first assignment you have on that platform is to register. You go to the landing page, it will show you a place to log in and a place to register. You register by keying in the serial number of your identity card, and then it will register you accordingly. Once you are registered, then you are free to transact. And you transact in all the services of the Ministry of Lands, from registration to physical planning to survey, everything that is handled by the Ministry of Lands, you can access that service there. In some cases, you will require a lawyer, professional, and the platform provides for registration of lawyers to help you through the transaction. If you require a surveyor, the platform also recognizes licensed surveyors who can then log on and submit your data onto the platform. So all the professionals that legally are allowed to transact in the land sector are recorded in the platform and are allowed to register and perform their professional duties on the platform. So the first thing, log on. Once you log on,
I get my password.
Exactly.
Now, once I get a lawyer or a surveyor, do I need to give them my password?
No, never do that.
Okay.
Because you see, we are saying this platform is as secure as you behave, Eric. In the same way, you don't give even your wife your credentials to your bank account.
Oh, now you're alerting her. Okay, go ahead.
You shouldn't give anyone your password, your OTP. Remember, once you log on, we send an OTP to your phone. So the security of your phone is very important, because if I access your OTP, it means I can access your account. So don't give out your password. Don't leave your device hanging about without a proper protection. Don't share your password. And if you see any suspicious activity on your account, we have a customer care platform which is live 24 hours.
Okay.
Just report.
So how do I assign the lawyer then to my transactions?
In the same way, Eric, in your physical space, you want to buy land, for instance. The first thing you do is you look for a lawyer. You say, I'm interested in this parcel of land. I want to transact. So you will authorize that lawyer to transact on your behalf. So once you have authorized them to transact on their behalf, then they transact on your parcel on your behalf. It's the same way you appoint a lawyer to do any business.
Is it possible to transact land without using a lawyer?
Some services, yes. You see, in registration, for instance, the law requires that the legal instruments are executed by a legal professional. Those you will need a lawyer. But if you want to do a search, you don't need a lawyer. Just go to the platform, go type your parcel number, and proceed to do the search. There are services you can do on your own. There are services for which you require a lawyer. And as I said, this platform has been built to comply with all the laws governing land management and administration.
I'd asked you a question earlier on, but I was getting somewhere with it.
Which one?
The leeway that you have in your office as Minister for Lands. The reality that we have in this country is that the leadership from the president, the people we refer to as their cronies, senior government officers, right from independence, have also been some of the biggest landowners we have in the country. So when the land ministry now goes about undertaking an exercise such as the one that we're discussing here, I have to ask the question, how sure are we that this exercise isn't going to be skewed to favor people who already own large parcels of land, which means they have a bigger stake in the issue of formatting and reforming this particular sensitive ministry? How sure are we that the interest of the common man is not going to be trumped or is not going to receive the undue and unpleasant attention that is received over the years? Or how sure are we that with all this, anyone who owns land and every citizen in this country will have a level playing field on which they can actually hope and believe that their land issues will be taken care of?
You see, City, this platform has actually been created to introduce accountability and transparency. It is not about the extent of acreage you have as a landowner. It is what are your rights. As a landowner, what are your rights before the law? And we have built the platform to obey the law, to obey the Constitution. The Constitution defines what we should do in the sector. From Article 60 to Article 65, I think, defines what we should do in the land sector in terms of land management. It spells it out clearly. Sustainable, equity, not discrimination, those kinds of things. All those things are spelled out in the Constitution. And then the Constitution under Article 68 compels Parliament to write the laws for documenting these rights. And that is how the Land Registration Act of 2012 came into force, the National Land Commission Act, the Land Act, all this law, the National Land Use and Physical Planning Act of 2019, all these laws are a product of the Constitution. So the Constitution tells us what we should do in order to manage land sustainably, in an equitable manner, and to make sure that it benefits the people of Kenya. Because it starts by saying land belongs to the people of Kenya, collectively, individually, and privately. Okay. So to that extent, the system is that transparent.
Okay. So how then, for example, would we deal with something like, say, the coastal strip that we know predates, God knows, antiquity? How will that fare with this system that we're talking about?
In terms of bringing all parcels of land onto the platform, yes, it doesn't discriminate what kind of land you're going to bring on board. It will either be private land, community land, public land. If there's a claim of historical injustice, that is the mandate of the National Land Commission, and there are many such claims before the Commission. If, for instance, a community feels that their rights to a certain parcel of land were historically trampled upon, they bring a petition before the Commission, and the Commission then hears the petition and makes a ruling. Once they make a ruling, it is now the Ministry of Lands which will implement the decision of the National Land Commission. So there are many concurrent processes going on. First, let us clean the base. Let us make sure that all the lands we have in Kenya are properly documented, whether they are community land, whether they are public land or private land, whether who has claim on it. Let us document them. Once we are on the platform and they are all documented, let us begin to ask the question, so who is the owner of this land? Is it historically, does it belong to this community or this individual? And those are questions where the law has provided the framework through which to handle these things. And that is why the Commission had the mandate in the first place to hear historical land injustices, because there are many. It's not just in the coast. There are people in the Mount Kenya region who are displaced by the colonial government. Yep. There are many people who have genuine historical injustices claims. Those are before the Commission. Once they are dealt with by the Commission and they make a ruling, then as national government, we implement the decision of the commission.
Commission.
Regarding whatever issue it was.
1 hour is a short time, Madam CS. We're actually coming to 5 minutes to the top of the hour.
I didn't realize it was moving so quick.
At this point, we want to say goodbye and thank you very much to our audience on KTN Home who've been with us for the past 1 hour. But this conversation continues on SpiceFM. We kindly request Madam CS to stay on for a couple of minutes because there are many questions that are on social media. So you can respond to them.
No problem.
The conversation continues therefore on SpiceFM. Tune in 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 Mombasa, 102.5 Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9 and Malindi it's 97.7. We have in the studio with us Farida Karone, the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning. Good morning.
And everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
So a number of questions. There is a question that I've just seen down there by Yegon, who's talking about an issue that you've just talked about, Madam CS, on community land and those historical injustices, saying, for example, the people of Chemase in Nandi, the Chepkiep and the Tabolwa, which the land title deeds have remained in the names of colonizers for a long time. Is this what you're saying now? Those issues are being addressed by the National Lands Commission?
Some of them, yes, and some through adjudication and settlement programs. Mm-hmm. In some places, like Chemase, where the what is his name? Bet? Is it Bet?
Yegon.
Yegon. Where Bet is talking about. I think these were lands that the leases have expired. They had been leased to companies which were doing sugarcane and sisal. The leases have expired. Some of them we're recently working with the National Land Commission. We've set it aside for settlement. So some of these will be done through the settlement and adjudication program of the national government. Some of them will be addressed by the National Land Commission, as I said. But the National Land Commission and the Ministry of Lands, we work together on the issues, because even if the Commission makes a ruling, it will have to be implemented. If it's not implemented by the Ministry of Lands, then the issue remains unresolved. So some we are systematically, and that's why the President actually insisted on scaling up the national titling program, so that such communities where we are able as national government to settle them, using the settlement program, we settle them. Where the National Land Commission needs to come in, they come in and we work together to try and see what can be done. So it's, as I said, Eric, these are problems that have been created over a very long period of time. They cannot be resolved in the short term of President Kenyatta. Another president will come and have to carry it forward, because it will take time, maybe another 30, 40 years, to not even resolve, but at least to reach a reasonable settlement of some of these issues.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while. We'll continue with some of the questions into the next hour. So, for example, one of them by Kimani is talking about, is it true that plots measuring 40 by 80 will not be getting title deeds? What will happen to those who already have 40 by 80 plots?
That's not true, because there are many 40 by 80 or even smaller parcels that have titles. In urban centers especially, what we've done is we are doing a regularization program, because there are many Kenyans in urban centers who don't have titles. And we are regularizing those in urban informal settlements, for instance.
Right.
The Nairobi titling program is especially aimed at that, to regularize settlements that would ordinarily not be recognized as settlements because the parcels are too small. But we are saying, because these Kenyans have lived here for so long, and they don't have anywhere else to call home, so we are regularizing these settlements and titling them.
Okay.
All we are doing is making sure they have access roads, you can provide for power lines, so you just plan them properly. So that they are settlements that are sustainable in the first place.
Okay. 0719-012-600. Any questions for CS Farida Karone? The lines are open, and keep asking the questions on our social media. Good morning. It's 9 a.m. Time for the news.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. 129 patients have recovered from COVID-19, including 65 from various health facilities across the country and 64 from home-based and isolation care. Recoveries now total 113,057, with 82,203 from home-based care and 30,633 from other health facilities. So far, 921,546 people have been immunized against COVID-19 across the country. Baringo Nat Secretary General Joshua Cheptarus wants the government to improve the insecurity in the area so that students could report back to school. Speaking in Kabarnet, he said most schools in Kapedo, Tiati, Turkana, Arabal and Makutani might not resume due to insecurity. He insists that it is the government's responsibility to make sure that all students get education.
As we speak, some schools in Baringo South have not been opened. They may not be opened soon. We want to ask the government. We want to ask the regional commissioner to come back again and very quickly put up security measures to have these lives go back to school.
He has also warned that NAT might be forced to ask its members to stay home until that time when their security will be assured.
As Kenya National Union of Teachers, this is our stand, and we do not want to hide. Any place where there is insecurity, any place where a life of a teacher is not secure, any area where teachers may go and come in a coffin, we normally ask teachers not to report to such places unless their lives are secured.
The High Court has temporarily barred the arrest of Meru Senator Mithika Linturi linked to a probe on 37 fraud-related criminal charges. Justice Weldon Korir barred police and the DPP from arresting him. Linturi, who was to be charged at the Milimani Law Courts today, moved to court to challenge the move. Kenya has suspended all flights between Kenya and Somalia, citing operational sensitive information. Kenya Civil Aviation Authority said only medical evacuation and United Nations flights on humanitarian missions will be allowed between the two countries. The move comes barely a week after the federal government of Somalia said it had restored diplomatic ties with Kenya. The Kenya Airports Authority has re-advertised its managing director post 20 months since the start of the process in September 2019. The fresh recruitment process will see the airport's manager receive new applications between Tuesday and May 21st. Applicants who have applied for the role nearly 2 years ago have been encouraged to reapply. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni is expected to be sworn in today. He will be sworn in at the capital, Kampala, with reports indicating that police officers have already been deployed to various regions in the country. His biggest challenger, Bobi Wine's house, has been surrounded. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
All right, so those who are on Mombasa Road have maybe moved a few inches since the last time we spoke. It looks like it's still an issue on Mombasa Road today, and the rain is still coming down in sheets, so this one is slowing things down considerably. So still a lot of traffic around the city. The latest entrance into this is Limuru Road. Trying to get to the city from Limuru is absolute chaos now, and looking at then past the Aga Khan Hospital, going towards Ngara. Go right and then use Wangari Maathai, the round way into the city, much quicker there, or then on towards, if you're going then left towards Thika Road and not towards Ngara, you should be all right. Okay, so we're still looking at heavy traffic on Jogo Road, Outer Ring, Thika Road, Kiambu Road. We see this today. Langata Road, just a little bit, but not too bad. Huru Highway, then through to and fro the city. We still have traffic. Let's keep an eye on things, guys. It's moving very, very slowly now. Above all, please be careful. Talk to us. If you get stuck somewhere, you find an alternative, let us know. SpiceFM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, 5 after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. We still have with us in the studio Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, Farida Karone. Very many questions on social media, so she has agreed to stay a while longer so she can respond to as many of them as possible. And you can still call in 0719 012 600. CT, before we go to the questions, today's proverb.
When the mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her.
When the land grabber grabs the land, the children can see.
Wow.
You've got to, contextualize a proverb on the topic of the day.
Okay.
It's important.
It's
Questions?
important. All right. So, you talk about, the statements that you've made, Farida, about now this being able to curtail fraud, make sure that some of the injustices that we've seen over land allocation and buying and such then disappear with the digitization of this. If we look at cartels as having been part of the system, whichever way we want to look at it, how then will this make sure that also those fall in line, Combined with another question that somebody has here and says, so this will also be very tempting for people who would take advantage of those who have no online experience, don't know anything about the digital space, and have land that they need recorded or found out about, is an option for people to come and defraud them. Online operators, cyber cafes, anybody doing what they want to do. How will you be able to make sure that this is brought into check?
Okay, so let me start with the last question. Do I think for customers who cannot read or write, we have a customer support center in Earthy House and in the Survey of Kenya Ruraka, the National Geospatial Data Center, and we encourage them not to use third parties. If you have a service you want to perform, you cannot read or write, you come to the Ministry of Lands. We have a support system for our customers. Or in the same way that you use M-Pesa, I'm sure you use your grandchildren, your children, the people around you whom you trust and can read and write to transact on your behalf. But it is safer to come to government because we provide the service free of charge. You don't have to pay anything, and we can help you to transact. In terms of cartels or brokers, first of all, as a landowner, you don't need any middlemen because you have your own account in the system. Whatever service you want is available on the platform. Once you log on, let nobody tell you, pay 5,000 so that I can help you. It's not necessary. Because if you want a search, where a lot of Kenyans used to be conned in the Ministry of Lands, it's an absolutely free service. You just log on and get what you want. Every record on the platform is available to you as a landowner on your platform. So you don't need a middleman to do that. In terms of the cartels, so to speak, or officers of government who have not acted transparently in the past, the system provides the check. Because every officer of government has credentials to log on to the system. The system doesn't allow you to walk all over the place like an explorer. You get onto the system, do the business you're supposed to do on the system. It is on a need-to basis. If you are a registrar, you access registration services, and that is where you transact. If you want survey records, it will be a read-only record, so you cannot alter it. If you want a physical planning record, it is also a read-only. So the system itself provides the necessary checks because it also dictates, according to the law, what you should do on the system. Because the registration process is a legal process, and the law defines how it should be done. That process is followed in the system. If you're submitting your survey work, there's a protocol. And what we are doing currently is training the professionals on how to operate on the system so that you operate transparently and securely. So to a large extent, the platform itself provides the security guards so that you don't get people doing exploration all over the place and trying to check who owns what. It doesn't permit that. You search your own parcels. Yeah.
A number of questions are on social media still. And this is, what is the definition of a new development? A development which was completed in 2010 and the leases are yet to be registered due to delayed change of user. Does that count as a new development? The other questions are with regards to many large pieces of land and issues. One is, when are the lands officials coming back to Embakasi ranching? Another one is about slums. How will the slums issue be addressed in this land system? And the other one is with regards to the area, the Ngong Forest area around KMA flats and the others around Langata.
Okay, those
So you
are
can-
those are many questions in one. Let me start with the one for sectional properties. Any work submitted for registration or pending for registration in the ministry, those will be dealt with under the old legal framework. If it is already submitted and is pending registration, any work that has not been submitted for registration will have to comply with the Sectional Properties Act, regardless of when the development came up, even if it was 2010, whatever the number of years it has taken.
Okay.
As long as you have not submitted for registration, we are saying when you do submit, we shall follow the correct legal framework. So I hope I've answered that question correctly, sufficiently. Secondly, in terms of Embakasi ranching, we are currently processing what we worked with the company in the last 3 years, actually, since May of 2018. We have about 25,000 titles, and we are processing them for uploading on the platform. Once we've uploaded, we will set a date where the customers can come and collect their title deeds. We still have a few issues we are resolving with the company. Some of them of DAPO allocation, overlaps, those kinds of issues we are resolving with the Embakasi Ranching Company. But we have in our system about 25,000 titles which are ready and good, and we are processing them for the things that I said we are looking for. We are looking for completeness of the record, we are looking for accuracy, and we are looking for integrity. So to that extent, that is work ongoing. It's being processed now. So hopefully those customers will come on board very soon.
Okay.
In terms of, I think you asked about slum areas. Some of those informal settlements sit on public land. So what we will do, we will document it as such, as public land. It will be on the platform, but until another process is followed of alienating that for settlement of Kenyans, then it will remain public land.
Okay.
As I said earlier, there are many regularizations we are doing in urban centers in Nairobi. We expect to get, working with the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, we expect about 15,000 title deeds, and that is work in progress. We've done about 9,000 now. The president should issue those very soon. Those are just where you're already settled, you don't have title, but it is properly documented. Those
Okay.
we are now helping you to fast track the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
The final one was on Ngong Forest.
The Ngong Forest one, I think that's a matter that is pending before Parliament, I think. The one on Langata Road, it's pending before Parliament because there was an issue of whether or not the Gazette notice that was issued by the then Minister for Environment was taken to the end. Did it follow the due process of degazettement? I think there are conversations with the communities there to see what can be done in order to resolve the matter. So for now, it's pending. It's some of it is proper, regularized, others is not. So I think the process of walking through the entire process is going on, and we will reach an agreement with the dwellers there, with the settlers there, to see whether that can be regularized or not.
Okay.
Because as I said, the process was not followed to conclusion. So it needs to be concluded for those settlements to be legal settlements on what was formerly forest land.
And this is something the ministry can do.
No, not just the Ministry of Lands, because it involves the Ministry of Environment, because remember we are talking about forest. It involves KWS themselves. There are many players working together to see whether the matter can be resolved.
You know, I'm a layman. When you talk about forest, I'm thinking, but the forest is on the land.
Let's go to the phone lines. I have got two callers on the line. Karanja in Naivasha and Esther in Mombasa. Let's start with Karanja. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Karanja.
The venerable minister, 40 years.
Yes.
He's greeting you.
Asante sana Karanja, nimesalimika.
Okay, could you clarify how many illegal possessed land have you taken so far? Thank you very much.
Okay. How much you've reclaimed so far? Esther in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning to you all, and I'm very happy to raise this issue of land with CS Sarone. I'm very happy with I'm so clear now in my mind on the process.
Okay.
And this is my second time to listen to her on TV and now here. The historical issues about the land where maybe, of course, I'm married in, it's in the coast towards Tana River. I know there's a time the former president or the current president visited, and there were issues of the land, and people were given titles. So what happened is that there was still a follow-up on that vast place for issuance of titles to the locals, but it never materialized because of reasons that maybe the process was not duly followed, maybe the changes that are happening. So mine would be to ask about the historical issues on and of course she talked on allotment. And also I would want to know how whether they are in any way working in liaison with the county government. And if so, then do we first start with the county government, because it's long historical. And on top of that, there are settlers who have come over the years, and you cannot tell them out or in, or just people are staying together. So communities are growing and they are cohabiting. How then do we get to knowing that who is owning what? Because I know the government has that information, but also the locals have their own smaller groups who know that these are family land between here and here, who have already maybe given other people and settled in. So how would that, it's a very big jargon, and to this date the title issuance has not really been successful, even after the president and the CS former went there and to try and issue titles. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amani. Which one do you want to start with? Amani's or Karanja's?
I can start with Karanja's, because I think he's talking about the public lands issue. In Nairobi, we documented, I think, about 1,500 parcels of public land in the current work we are doing in the cadastre. And as I said, the process of recovery will take quite some time, because we have just started the framework of understanding what really happened. For about 700 of them, it's fairly straightforward, because these are parcels that were bought by government but were never vested. You see, government buys land for maybe public infrastructure projects, but it wasn't vested in government. So those we have started the process of vesting. Vesting is basically just transferring it from the person who owned it before the purchase to the government. So that the process has started. Then the balance of about 700, that's what I was saying, we have a separate team interrogating what happened in each case so that we can have a proper report and a proper way forward on how to handle them. Okay. So to that extent, the process is ongoing. But how soon we will do that depends on how soon the different team that is working on it will conclude their work. For the question from Tana River is one of the 24 counties in Kenya that have community land. That is what constitutes 70% of the land mass that I was talking about. Prior to September of 2019, we could use the Adjudication Act, but that has now been replaced by the Community Land Act, whose implementation we started in July of 2019. So far, we've registered 5 community titles. I think 1 in Kajiado, 2 in Laikipia, and 1 in Samburu. So we just started the process of implementation, and where we are going next for the customer is Tana River, because we need to, the way you document rights to community land, you start by documenting the communities. Who owns the land, which community, which family, those kinds of things. Once you've documented the communities, normally you work with the county government. They give you what we are calling an inventory of community lands. So we have about, I think so far we have about 13 inventories. And then we have the former group ranches, which would be registered under the Group Representatives Act. They are now brought on board the Community Land Act. Those are about, I think, 343. So we've started the process of implementation. We have a team. And that's how we are confident that by the end of 2024, that process will have moved significantly, because we have a team just dedicated to the implementation of the Community Land Act. And as I said, 24 counties in Kenya have community land. So I think they should just be a little bit patient. We finished the process of, the law says that before you start documenting the rights, you do public participation. So we finished the process of public participation in the 24 counties last year. Now we have started the process of actually registering those communities and their rights.
Is it possible, Farida, on a year-by-year basis, to actually let the Kenyan public know what it is you hope to achieve? For instance, by the end of 2021, this is what we will have achieved. By the end of 2022, or let's start the middle of 2022, this is what we will have achieved. When we get to the end of 2022, so that it is easier to digest that information. Because when you talk about, say, an end date 2024, 2023, yes, good, but can it be broken down?
Milestones.
Yes, it can be broken down. In fact, actually, as every ministry, as you know, has a performance contract with the president. And in my performance contract, we have a titling, and every year we do 500,000 titles every year as part of the contract. Titling like this, up to December, I'm expected to have delivered another 20 counties on the digital platform. And that's doable because we are doing a good mix of the counties with many titles and the counties that have few. So the 20 will be delivered. So yes, to answer your question, it is possible because it's actually on our performance contract, which is an annual contract.
And I'm saying it would be good if the public knew. Because it also shows up public confidence. Because you said, you did. You said, you did. You see, one of the problems I have, this trust deficit.
I thought you are about to come
No.
to sign the cross.
I've moved away from the Ministry of Lands.
Yeah.
I'm now talking
Squarely in government.
the mother title, government.
The mother title. Okay.
Yes, government.
Yeah, okay.
You see, that deficit often arises from just a lack of clear communication.
I agree with you, Siti, and I think as government we ought to do more because this government has done a lot of work, really a lot of work. So we ought to engage more, we ought to speak more, and we ought to be out there more so that the public can interrogate the programs that we are doing in the manner in which we are interrogating now. If there's no clarity, we provide ourselves with a platform to clarify. And I think, yes, we really need to talk more to the public. And as a ministry, I think we undertake to do more. Under this platform, we've actually created a special team to engage with the public on this platform and other programs of the ministry. And I think other ministries are directed by the president are beginning to do the same.
Engineer Jay says that he's tried a gazillion times to log on to the Earth Isasa system and been unable to get the OTP. What should they do?
They should speak to the customer care representative. When you get on the landing page, on the bottom right, I think, there's an icon for customer service. She should chat those people up and they'll support her through the process. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a 24-hour service day and night.
All right. People from other counties are also asking about when they will be digitized. I know initially you had made announcements that we're starting off in Nairobi and then we'll go to other parts of the country.
Yeah.
So the questions are coming up. And we've seen from Bomet, we've seen from other parts of the country saying, okay, so when is it going to happen in our neck of the woods as well?
This is 2021. Up to December, we want to do another 19 counties to make 20 because we committed to doing 20 this year. How we are doing it, you might be wondering, because it took us 3 years in Nairobi. We are doing concurrent teams. So we have clusters of 5 teams, and we are mixing the big counties with the small counties. Okay. So soon we will publicize the counties we are going to next because we are doing another 19. The immediate ones are Kajiado, Machakos, Kiambu, and Murang'a, because we need to complete the Nairobi metropolitan area, so that because it's one cluster in terms of business transactions. So those we are doing by around September, and then we'll move to the other. Now there will be 14 before the end of the year. But we'll publicize the list on our website where we're going next.
Okay.
Talking of guarantees, future, maybe you can't guarantee it, but when you're talking about a system that should actually run through with the test of time, tell us about the things you've put in place to ensure that even when there's a change of government, it'll be next to impossible to turn back this particular tide.
For the artists as a platform, I can tell you it is an idea whose time came long ago, actually. It hasn't come now. It's what we should have been doing years back. Remember the e-government strategy came in force in 2004. That's when government services were supposed to go digital, but it took us a bit of time because of many reasons. But the way this platform has been configured, first, once we finish with Nairobi completely, we will take all the manual files to the archives, and it will not be available for transaction. So even if a future minister were to come, they can't go back because there will be no physical file to go to. All the files they will be looking to work with will be on the computer. And remember, government is perpetual. This is a government program. It's not Farida's program. I'm executing it on behalf of the Ministry of Lands on behalf of government. So any minister will just come and perpetuate what is government policy. And I don't see a future government that will say digitization is not important. I mean, COVID has taught us that you don't have to keep interacting manually as human beings, that we can do business from our homes. So I don't think there's a reasonable person holding public office who will reverse this process. I don't think so.
Just another 5 minutes with the Cabinet Secretary, and then we can let her go into other busy schedule. So Dennis is saying, please ask the CS what she thinks about subdivision of agriculture land into plots. And I remember when Amos Kimunyo was Cabinet Minister for Lands, he actually came up with the directive of looking at limiting how far you can subdivide pieces of land, especially in the agricultural areas, in the name of inheritance. Somebody has 2 acres, has 5 sons, has got to subdivide, and there was a whole limit of, don't go below half an acre, but it still has continued.
Yeah.
What is the position currently?
So, Eric, that is planning. And planning is a concurrent function of the national government and the county government. the national planning document, the National Spatial Plan, is created by national government. What the county governments ought to do and are obligated to do is to create a spatial plan for their counties. A spatial plan basically defines the land use of the landmass in any particular county. Some counties have created the spatial plans, others haven't. So in order to prevent what you're saying, subdivision of agricultural land, all the counties need to implement their spatial plans. And the spatial plans will tell you this is an industrial zone, this is an agricultural zone, this is an urban center, all the land uses in a particular area. And it is one of the documents you require to do in order to benefit for funding from the national government. Unfortunately, what has happened with our counties, they have invested very little in planning. Some counties actually don't have planners at all. And many times, as national government, we are still supporting them with planners. So I think we need to engage more with our county governments in order for them to appreciate that they need to take on the role given to them by the Constitution, because that is, the planning function was assigned to the county governments by the Constitution. There are two planning authorities: the national government, which is the CS for physical planning, and the CEC for lands in the county. So they should take on their role and take it up more aggressively and just guide their citizens on what to do with the parcels of land in their counties.
Okay. So it's about the national and county at the same time, because there have been very many complaints and even conversations of the country has been subdivided into 50 by 100s. Anywhere you go in Kenya, you will find a 50 by 100 being sold. And you ask yourself, so what's going to happen to agricultural land and such others? And then is there proper planning on in terms of provision of services roads and all? So how do you harmonize all that?
I think it boils down to the question of enforcement, because actually these counties, some of them have these spatial plans that I'm talking about, but they are never implemented. Even in national government, look at Nairobi, look at any urban center. Don't you see the chaos?
Yep.
It's not for lack of the plan. We have a beautiful spatial plan. It came into force in 2017. But Kenyans, we have a certain mentality which I don't understand. That we just want to put up structures all over the place. You go along the road, there are kiosks, there are food kiosks. There's nothing wrong with food kiosks. But I think they should be organized in a manner that allows for proper land use. Because you don't put food kiosks or fruit vendors along a busy road. But, because we don't enforce our development control plans, then that chaos happens. And when you have chaos like that, you cannot use your land optimally. So yes, we need all these economic activities going on, but they need to be a bit more structured. Fortunately, now the president is really scaling up markets because some of these activities I'm talking about should actually sit in marketplaces, which the government now is investing a lot of resources. So to answer your question, Eric, it's a question of enforcement. Both national government and county government, I think we have fallen short, and we need to get back on the pedal and actually just enforce these plans that we develop.
I've got to say, personally, you've done quite a lot of work in the ministry, and especially this round of going around explaining, it's doing a lot in terms of people understanding what exactly needs to happen in this very emotive topic of land. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll give you a moment now to give us your closing remarks and also make the altar call for any non-believers who would like to come and join the congregation.
I think CT is already converted, so he has already experienced his road to Damascus. But Eric, on a serious note, I just want to encourage people in Nairobi to come on the platform, to work with us, because as I said, a lot of parcels of land are not on this platform. And they are not on this platform for the reasons that I've mentioned. Is it a section of property? Work with us. If you have a transaction, for instance, you want to maybe charge your property, come to us. We'll give you a survey and convert your section of property to the right legal framework. If you have, we have gaps in data, come forward, bring your data set so that we can complete your data sets and we can bring the data on the platform. If you're sitting on public land,
come to us before we come to you.
Don't waste time trying to look for it on the platform because it will not be there. But the thing we need to do as Nairobians, let us experiment on the platform. Let us experience it. Let us test it and see where the gaps are. Because as you said, Eric, I think it was Ndu who said, this is a system built by human beings. There will be gaps, and we want to know those gaps so that we can address them. We are really, really looking forward to Huduma Number coming on board because it will clean the data sets about identity, which sometimes we struggle with because sometimes our systems are down because of other government systems being down. But Huduma Number is being upgraded to the same level as Addisasa, and we think that when we bring them on board, it will stabilize our platform. So come on board, test it, register, struggle with us, because we are on this journey together. It's not a business of Farida or the Ministry of Lands. It is our collective responsibility as Kenyans. We ought to move this country to another level in terms of land management and administration. And the time is now.
Sitio umesikia huduma namba?
That's another conversion that you need to start
Listen to that huduma number, which in my head is one word. Yes, and I've thought of, I am not registered with the huduma number.
That means
yes,
time is coming.
You should.
I should.
Really, you should. Because you see what it does? It really congregates our identity data sets. It refines it. Because you see, because of historical issues of manual processes, some of our data sets are not very clean. So these new systems are coming on board to clean up our data sets.
Can I register with huduma number on eCitizen?
When it's live, yes, you should. Because it will be your identity data. So you can use it anywhere you want to use it, as far as government services are concerned. So when it comes on board CT, now that you are converted to the Lands platform, please register on huduma number.
Across the board. Tick them all.
Tick them off and test it.
Test everything. Okay? And you'll know it's good.
Test every spirit.
I was saying taste.
Taste.
Thank you.
Farida, thank you very much for joining us. Farida Karone, Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning. And I've got to say this, I wanted to say this from the very beginning, EGH. You know, somebody in my profession who gets to that level, you know? The highest civilian honor in the Republic. Elder of the Order of the Golden Heart.
It's an honor bestowed by the President for service to our nation.
Kabisa.
Yes.
I think that was an honor well bestowed. There are many instances where I wonder how on earth.
Have a good day, Farida. Thank you for joining us. Keep it right here. The conversation continues.
Thank you, Eric.
Kenya's biggest conversation continues. 28 minutes to 10. We'll open up the phone lines and have a different conversation. But let's first take a look at the traffic. The people who are on Mombasa Road at 3:30 a.m., have they arrived somewhere close to South Sea? They'll tell us. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, SpiceFM KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, still looking at drizzly situations in Nairobi. 17 degrees, the good highs of 21 today, lows of 16. It's 16 in Nyeri and cloudy, highs of 21 and lows of 15. Rain showers in Nakuru at 17, highs of 22 and lows of 15. 13 will be the low in Eldoret, where it's mostly cloudy, currently at 16. We're going to go to highs of 25 in Kisumu, rain showers at 20, 21 and raining in Kakamega, highs of 24 and lows of 15. We'll see lows of 26 in Mombasa, where it's mostly sunny this morning, now at 28. It's raining in Malindi at 29. It'll just go to highs of 30 today. 23 will be the high in Kampala, light rain at 20, mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 26, highs of 25. Looking out east, Beijing is sunny at 27. It's going to come down to lows of 15. It's sunny in Paris at 10, highs of 16 and lows of 10, and mostly cloudy conditions in London at 12, highs of 17 and lows of 10. And finally in New York, coming close into Wednesday morning, it's 11 degrees and clear. Through the day, it'll go to highs of 19 and lows of 9.
Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
So you were asking, people who left Sabaki at 6 o'clock are now at General Motors.
Oh, yeah.
It's not interesting at all. Mombasa Road
Akiwoishe.
is bad. So we added Limuru Road to this morning madness. We added Outer Ring. And now we've added Langata Road. So traffic starts at the Langata Cemetery today. Very, very slow as you try to approach the Timor roundabout. That's not happening. It should eventually get there. There's some construction that's going on there as well. You get to Bagavi Way and then you also get stuck as you try to get towards the City Mortuary roundabout, going towards Ngong Road, then going towards Irving's Kodek, or then going down Great Ngong Road towards Community. I'm sorry, I'm tired on everybody's behalf, but it looks like a crazy day. It is a crazy day, guys. This one we're just going to have to sit through. In and outbound on Mombasa Road. Dash it all with a bit of patience today, guys, because it's what we're going to need. And the rain continues to come down. Let's talk, at least. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
23 minutes. 23 minutes to 10. Hey, somebody left Sabaki at 6.
Can you imagine? It's
And
9
at
o'clock now, they're
9:30,
at GM.
9:30, they're at GM.
I don't know. Today,
should we not just walk to town?
Wow.
Yeah. Now, somebody else was saying this morning, well, the folks who choose to walk, them, they have no problem because that's what they're used to. They're walking, rain, sunshine. They're walking.
Someone is saying they're heading to Machakos and they avoided Mombasa Road, used Kamulu to Machakos Road. Mombasa Road wachana na hiyo. It's for premium tiers. They're already in Machakos having tea. Having used Kamulu means that they have used Jogoo Road if they were coming from CBD. Jogoo Road into Outer Ring Road, into Kangundo Road, go all the way to Kamulu, then find your way into Machakos.
Wow. Shorter. Think about it like this. Faster. Think about it like this.
That route is not short.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, in terms of the experience, it's a much shorter experience than sitting here on Mombasa Road trying to get to Machakos if you were leaving the city. And if you said you think about folks who were going to Nakuru using another route, had gotten to Nakuru already and started their whatever it is that they were doing while people were still here at General Motors, having left Sabaki, an ordinarily 10-minute drive.
Muhammad Ulia tweeted the other day, it took him 5 hours from Jeddah to Nairobi. Took him 5 hours from JKIA to CBD.
Let's just elucidate that Jeddah is in another country. Jeddah is not just there next to Machakos.
In another continent. And it takes you 5 hours to get there. It's absolutely crazy. It's really, really crazy. Now you can imagine somebody who has traveled all the way from Mombasa, from Malindi, from Lamu. Come.
When you're on 5 hours on Mombasa Road.
And then 5 hours.
You know, we talk about money and we talk about how our hard-earned tax monies are misappropriated. And one forgets that all these things that we talk about can be quantified in terms of time. Now, you quantify the time that is being wasted because it is being wasted. Something that could have been much simpler, much easier, suddenly becomes something that you have to discuss, you have to talk about because it is a pain that really, really hurts. You can't say, I'm not going to go to work, because you do need to go to work. And there's certain things you can't do online.
It's really painful, and we feel the pain for everybody who has been caught up in this particular mess today. In other days, you hear, okay, a truck overturned in the middle of the road. Now, can you imagine at that section at General Motors, which has been reduced to a single lane, if a vehicle breaks down? There.
You know, you're talking about a vehicle breaking down. Anyway, right.
Where are you going?
I'm not going anywhere. I am just looking at the paper in an attempt to try
and move on from
and look at something
pain.
that may be a little pleasant to look at.
Move on from this pain.
Yes, it is. It is.
Anyway, looking back at the conversation that we had with Farida, and the very many concerns on the system, the very many points of not understanding what exactly is going to happen with the system, they're still there, of course. But the job that she's doing of going in person, owning the system and explaining is obviously going to help a lot.
Sure.
It will, however, need a lot of work to be done to have mass communication. Because when you talk about, like now, the way Esther was talking about her case somewhere in Tana River, you need to go to the community, engage with the community, make them understand what's happening, and then engage with them, take them step by step. There'll be different levels of understanding for different communities and different users. And you have to roll out that. And it will not take just one day. It just needs one negative issue, just like the vaccine. One negative issue, it's amplified, and the people in Tana River will be like, that system. The one we had sold off somebody's land.
You know, Eric, consider, if I may quote the minister, titles, land with the titles, 30%.
Only.
30. Other 70. And then there are 24 counties in this country that represent that 70% without titles. If I may use a Kenyan term, majorly.
Yes.
Okay? So now you tell me you want to discuss land with these people and you want to talk about ownership, and the majority of people have never seen a title deed. They have no clue what it looks like. They know ownership. They understand boundaries in the way that they do.
Yep.
Now, and then you don't hear into this whole discussion the actual rollout of a plan that the government has to actually educate people about this. The Huduma number, they tried. They actually tried. They actually gave information. They told you what you're going to do. But my all-time favorite, when we're changing these banknotes, that communication to date fascinates me.
Left no stone unturned.
It fascinates me. They walked with you step by step to the week, to the day.
And just in case you may have forgotten, they send you reminders throughout, back and forth. You know exactly what's going to be happening. What you're talking about that the Ministry of Lands is doing, and then under the leadership of C.S. Karane, and then what is clear that is possible to be done by government with this example that you've given, don't you see how it could be a lot easier for citizens to really understand what is going on? And just tying it into what Dr. Njoya said this morning, that you're not here for yourself as government. You're actually here to serve the people.
Yeah.
So if you are sharing information on what it is that you're actually doing on a regular, then you're actually showing that you actually care about the livelihoods of people. It doesn't matter where it is. Throw a stone and let it land on it. It doesn't matter what it is. Agriculture, telling people what your plans are. Infrastructure, telling people what your plans are for this road so that they can understand, giving people alternatives, sharing that information with them on a regular basis. Now you had land, huge plots of land that belong to your forefathers, telling them how we're actually planning for you to make sure that it is regularized so that nobody can take it from you in the future and that you have the right ownership to it. Can you imagine just showing people that you care by sharing the information with them, and their input can now be married with all of this? Wouldn't it be a beautiful place?
And it is not something difficult
It can be done. It can be done.
It isn't difficult. You know why I'm saying this? There is an article in the Star with reference to Laikipia. You know Laikipia?
Yes.
It's a vast county, lots of land, and it can fall into this category of counties where people actually own land but don't have titles. There's something that the Laikipia County has done. Okay? Let me read it so that it isn't me saying it. The Laikipia County Administration has unveiled modern geographic information system, GIS, lab to eliminate land fraudsters that have been swindling unsuspecting buyers. The governor, Derito Murithi, on Friday said that the lab will streamline land transactions and give citizens assurances of authenticity of leases. Okay. Now, this is like something that can be plugged into what the Minister for Lands was telling us all about. The county government looks at the issues that they have.
Yeah.
They look at land, they know how emotive it is, and they decide, no, let's put the minds of our citizens at ease. Let us have a system that will guarantee that when we tell them that these things, you see, the beauty about a digitalized system, I don't have to travel all the way from wherever I come from to the headquarters of whichever county it is. All I require is a gadget, and I am able to actually transact the business that I have at hand. So whatever will take me to the headquarters will be very specific things. But simply the things that I need to know or understand about the status of my land or my ownership of it, those are things I may not necessarily need to travel to any place to. There's no physical movement that is required of me. Now, the county government, if by the time this thing is actually in the papers and the governor is talking about it, I want to take the view that the county government has also ensured that the members of their county assembly understand this. And it is hoped that if they understand it, then the citizens who elected them can also understand the same thing.
Right.
Now, it then makes these things easier. It limits this issue of guessing that we are often presented with, where you're supposed to try and figure out, now, how will this work? And yet, you don't need to figure it out. There's a way in which it can actually work, and it can work with ease. If you can get your passport with the ease with which people can get passports now, why can you not just transfer that same process to something like land? Yes. Because, believe me, it was a lot harder to get a passport than it was to transact land at some point.
Yep.
Infinitely harder. Getting a passport, it was a nightmare. No. It was a traumatic experience at best. Now it isn't.
It's straightforward.
Oh, it is very straightforward. Getting, updating, upgrading, renewing your driving license, the simplest thing on the planet. It is just as simple as you sending M-Pesa to somebody else, as long as you know what their number is and you know your PIN number. But because the industry has thrived for the longest time on deceit and on falsehood, even as these new changes come about, unfortunately, what will dominate the conversation is what it has been premised on for the longest time. And yet, the reason that is because the government does not counter this with effective communication as it should. A statement by the minister is all good and well, but the follow-up, so that this is something that you're constantly being bombarded with, something you're constantly being told about. There's a cooking oil called Kimbo, and for the longest time, it was the cooking oil of choice, cooking fat rather of choice. Why? There are ads, even as I think of Kimbo, that ad still rings in my mind. Pika kwa Kimbo, still in my head. And this is something I started hearing as a child. Now, surely, you're trying to tell me you know how to communicate effectively and to ensure that the message sinks home. Something as emotive and as sensitive as land. Is there really any effort that you can consider unnecessary when it comes to communicating these issues?
No, there isn't. And I think we also need to bring in all the duty bearers to task on this. Remember, the CS said the counties have a big role to play, especially when it comes to the special plans. So the special plans are where we are talking about, so what have you earmarked this particular region for? If this is agricultural land, if this is industrial land, if this is commercial land, is it clear? If it's agricultural land, what kind of services do you need? What size of roads do you need? What number of highways do you need leading into this particular space? If we are talking about industrial land, what servicing is going along with this? If the county governments don't do this, that's why you see new mushrooming centers coming up, and you wonder, so what's going to happen if we ever need to expand? You see that in the wider Greater Nairobi metropolitan. If you look at outside Nairobi County, go into Machakos County, the whole area of Sabaki, of Syokimau, of Katani. Look at that land changing from agricultural land and industrial land into places that are now residential. Have the roads been adjusted to take care of this?
Which roads are you talking about?
So somebody had a 20-acre piece of land and they wanted to subdivide this to sell in half-acre plots or quarter-acre plots, and they just put a 6-meter road.
They
and
put
over time,
a footpath.
just a small foot, and then over time, there is going to be a huge population of people living here. Vehicles cannot actually be 2 vehicles on this footpath. And it's a residential area. And then you sit back and ask yourself, so what did the county government do to make sure that this works?
You see, that's where now the same issue that is bedeviling the Ministry of Land comes in. It is not possible for all the misdeeds we keep talking about to happen if there's no collusion within that ministry or any other ministry for that matter. There can be no issue. If you're talking about the county governments who have the power to licensure, it is not possible for these things we're talking about to happen if there is no collusion from people who are supposed to oversee these things and to provide the correct direction. It's not possible. But they seem to think that the little profiteering, the short-sighted, narrow-minded, myopic profiteering that they want to get involved in, it trumps everything else.
Yep.
And that's creating a problem that will be with us for even longer than you can even count. This country has a lot of land. A lot of it still unutilized, underutilized. And yet, we are talking about as though the little land that we have left is about to disappear. It isn't going anywhere.
It's finishing. It's finishing.
Yes.
It's still here with us. We just need to think about how best to utilize it.
Yes, and there are people who know exactly what to do with these things, and they can tell you. But then again, this culture that we have decided to embrace and which we have decided to allow to take center stage in our lives.
Of saying we're going to do something and then actually never actually getting it done, or taking time to, play around with the position while you have it and then move on to the next thing and then put it in the hands of the person who's coming thereafter.
No, pretending that you want to change when you actually don't want to change.
It's all talk.
Yes, it's talk. Everyone comes and says what they think they're going to do. You see, one of the things I liked about the conversation we're having is we're being told about things that have been done, not will be done.
It's not plans.
No, it's not plans. It's not plans. For us, when we talk about plans, has been done. And this that has been done is what is hoped to lead us to the next stage. You can see the promised land.
Yeah.
But this one where the land even doesn't exist and it's still being promised to you, it's a bit tricky. And then you're being told, have faith. No.
We'll do it.
That particular boat, I'm afraid I cannot board.
When we had the call in from Dr. Wandia Njoya, and he talked about, the issue, for example, of dealing with urban transportation issues and the mass transportation of people, it has been discussed for very many years and there could be plans. And she was like, I doubt there are plans. These people, you may find that they have just been talking. But it was never, ever brought into a plan. There is a report here. There's a report after a meeting that was held here. There's minutes of meetings, this and the other. But the concretization of all those minutes into a proper plan that we can say, so this is the plan. This is the working document from the ministry that can now be taken to cabinet for discussion, that can be subjected to public participation on this is the plan going forward on how we shall roll this out. Or you may find that there's no plan. And I actually told myself, by the way, there's also a possibility. People who have gone out of this country, traveled. They've gone to Tanzania, they've gone to Europe, they've gone to South America, they've gone
seen
to
it all.
North America. They have seen it all. And it's all the issue of how do you address transportation of people. Then you'll just hear people just throwing in around words. Let's have cable cars.
It would be nice to have a tram in the city.
Let's have a tram.
Let's have a BRT.
Let's have buses. That one of cable cars was genius because it was by Dr. Evans Kidero. Let's have cable cars,
When we can't grow grass effectively. Grass.
That all you do is throw seeds and it'll grow on its own. Even that one.
Yes. It can even be a school project for nursery school kids. Okay? Then you want us to have cable cars. At least, start with the tram. That we can see. If I look at this huge construction, this bypass thing that we have here, I can see a tram. Okay?
Yeah.
And what I also don't see, there's all that space underneath. How exactly do they configure these things? Can't you not have a multiplicity of things happening at the same time?
Where that space below the bridge
is being used.
Could have been used for something.
Yes.
Like a tram, like your project Tongana. I have it on authority that when conversations were happening around expanding Gong Road, there was a whole talk of let's create a tram in the planning. On the side of this road, there's going to be, a rail system, light rail system, that then also deals with mass transportation of people.
Yeah.
And then on this other side, you can have places for bikes and for pedestrians. And then the road is going to be in the middle. And apparently they said, you know what, let's first of all deal with the road. You leave that whole plan for light rail to some other time.
Another time such as?
So project begins. Now, if we ever need to actually bring in a light rail system along Gong Road, we'll have to do more. We'll have to go destroying the current road somewhere at some places. We'll have
and
to
yet that could have been done
then. Infuse it. Even if you're saying leave the leeway here.
But that's what planners do.
Leave it here.
So that
when this is where the light rail is going to be installed.
Do you know?
This is where the stations are going to be.
Eric, do you have any idea for how many years that Ngong Road was a dual carriage on paper?
Tell me, how many?
My friend. You see, any time one talks about a deficit of trust in this country, it has been well earned. Yes, it didn't just happen by chance. There are people who've methodically done things that guarantee that the only thing that you can have anytime someone mentions a government project is mistrust. Yes. Even when you try to have a little faith, something happens to just do away with that completely. Because you'd say, for instance, that, there are limits. They realize the limits are in your head. The people who have been entrusted with these duties do not have those limits. They don't even understand that such limits should even exist. Because, we talked about land. Huh? The National Land Commission is an independent government institution. That institution that's supposed to resolve these issues, I ask myself, they have so many issues just within themselves. When are they actually ever going to devote time to actually resolving these huge land issues that we keep talking about?
It's really a primary job.
Yes. Because among themselves,
when will it be actually?
Yes, because every time I read about the NLC, there is an issue from within itself. So, okay, if from within itself these issues can't be resolved, now these issues...
And this is a commission that's less than 10 years old.
Yes.
Okay? It already has institutional issues.
That are 60 years old.
That are 60 years old. And we're talking about a very new commission. Imagine 10 years from today.
Yes.
The kind of issues that will be within the National Land Commission as it's expected to deal with issues of land across the country.
If we're talking about their ability to generate issues from among themselves, then they'd get top marks.
On their own.
You
don't even need external influence.
No, they've done an excellent job. But when it comes now solving other land issues, that one now you see you've introduced an impossibility into the discussion.
Remind us today's proverb.
Right. When the mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her.
When the mother goat breaks into the yam store, the kid watches her.
When the National Land Commission tells us they are going to solve our problems of land, and we are busy watching them having so many problems of their own, and from among his own members, what do you think our take-home message is?
You get no yams, man.
Yes.
Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. as usual. You have music coming up. You've got Sugar and Spice at 11. You've got Monique at 3. Adults in the Room will be back on Monday. Good morning. It's now 10 a.m.